Okay. Yep, you're in. All right. Public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act has been given by the Board Secretary on October 12, 2022 in the following manner. Posted notice on the school bulletin board of the administration building transmitted to the Courier Post, Philadelphia Inquirer, and the clerk of Cherry Hill Township. Please join me in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Mrs. Sugars, would you please take roll?
Mrs. Arroyo. Mrs. Stratton. Here. Mrs. Fleischer.
Here.
Mr. Mayor.
Here.
Dr. Rude.
Here.
Ms. Stern.
Here.
Mrs. Tong.
Here.
Mrs. Winters.
Here.
Mr. Avadia.
Here. All right, we're going to move. We have no board recognitions this evening. We're going to move to two presentations that Dr. Malash will introduce.
Thank you, Mr. Avadia. I'm very excited that Mr. Saporito, Anthony Saporito, is with us this evening. He is our District Director of Security. Mr. Saporito has worked with us in the school district for the past 7 years. This is his 8th year in Cherry Hill. It began in September of 2015. Mr. Saporito directly supervises our 9-member Cherry Hill Campus Police Department, and he also serves as the direct liaison with law enforcement, emergency management, and does quite a bit of work across the district and is a well-known resource throughout the state. Mr. Saporito is with us this evening to provide with us the yearly update on the Student Safety Data System Report. This is an annual state level report that must be completed. This is one of a few presentations that Mr. Saporito will deliver this year regarding information regarding student safety. We'll talk about discipline, all that kind of stuff during the course of the year as well. This is at the state level. This is the macro piece. So Mr. Saporito is with us this evening. Tony, all yours.
Good. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time tonight. As Dr. Malash said, we're going to be looking at the Student Safety Data System Report for last school year, 21-22. Really the first full school year of data that we have to look at since 18-19 because of the different closures and the ways the school operated or school district operated during those 2 years. So Mark. As we get this together, that a couple of years ago, well, beginning of the school year 18-19, prior to that, we had what was called the Electronic Violence and Vandalism System that was in place, and we all kind of got surprised when was that? It's not clicking, man. Kind of got surprised that September when we came back and there was a new system. The DOE broadcasted it like September 1st, and then we had to adapt to it. And it's the EVVRS system was very robust. We can get a lot of reports out of it. We could get detailed reports out of it. There had been 40 different reports. SSDS gives us one report, how many incidents occurred in each building. That is it. So whenever we have to, and we'll go into it when the one number that I investigated, we'll go into it and see what you have to go to each individual report because there's no reports that pull out that specific data. Is that first slide, Mark? Okay, thank you. Of course, COVID-19 had an impact for these numbers. Substantially down in 1920. We left the buildings on the 13th of March in 20, and from there we didn't come back. We never came back full time, right, Joe? And then the 2021 school year, between not being here, coming back, leaving, virtual. The kids had the choice of virtual or staying home. The numbers were virtually non-existent in the 2021 school year. There's really nothing to report from the 2021 school year. As you can see, 14 total incidents, and then 22 HIBs and 8 confirmed HIBs. Important to know that HIBs are reportable to the buildings and to the different principals and to the system, even if they happen off campus but involve students. That's the only thing in the student safety data system that is reported that happens off campus. So if there's an assault or a fight down the street from the school, even though it involves our kids, it's not recorded here, only on property, except the HIBs. Categories. The SSDS has 4 major categories: violence, vandalism, weapons, and substances. Now they're the four main categories, plus there is also the categories of HIB and HIB alleged. The HIB alleged category is kind of new. That came into effect in 1819 along with the new system. And you'll see the numbers as they come up. And each of the 4 major categories have subcategories. As I said before, it used to be great. We can pull those subcategories, those numbers out. You can't do it here. They just emailed the state the first year it was out, and they said they're being developed. Well, they were never developed since 2018. And the word is that the entire program is going to be updated and overhauled, because we cannot start uploading our reports from this year until early December. So something's obviously going on. I think they're going to rebuild it or make it better than it was. Mark. Thank you. To break down those categories a little bit more, they underwent some changes, I should say, back in 18 and 19. Some of the categories were removed: burglary and fireworks. They were under the vandalism category. Computer trespass was added as times have changed and more people have devices, more students have devices. That became an important part of the reporting system. In the violence category, robbery and extortion became one category. I'm here and I'm glad to tell you that we have never had to use that category. Bomb threat, fake bombs, and fire alarm offenses were now combined into one false public alarm category. And the sex offense category was broken down into 2: sexual assault and sexual contact. That and the one in front of it the one before it for false public alarm, all lined up with Title II-C, which is a criminal code in New Jersey. So that's why they made those changes, so they line up correctly. And the substance abuse has 2 categories: substance use confirmed, which would be the student is suspected of drug use, is sent out, comes back confirmed, or they're sent out for suspicion of use and do not have a test taken. That's considered a positive, but it's now separated, so you can see how many didn't take the test and how many were tested. These are the numbers for the past 5 years, including the year we're reporting on. As you can see, the last full school year, 18-19, you see the numbers there with 21-22, which is, the last full school year before 21-22. Numbers are kind of close. The number that kind of stuck out a little bit was that weapons in 21-22 with 14. 13 of them were possession of weapons. There was 12 knives, 1 pepper spray, and 1 imitation pellet gun. Only in one of those cases was the weapon displayed, and there was a threat involved with it. It was just one instance. No injuries occurred. It was a threat by a student to a bunch of other students, and of course that was taken care of. But that number's a little skewed from the others. Other than that, they're kind of on par with HIB's considerably lower there, with 23 less, if my math is right. The 2 in red, the 2 columns in red, are obviously the COVID numbers. As you could tell, 2021 was literally nothing. Nothing of note sticks out from there, and the numbers were again not even a sixth of what they were in the other years because of the school operations. So those 2 years are outliers, very hard to to compare anything to those numbers, but their numbers are there for your reference. The Hibs, 21-22, there was 73 total. If you look the other years, of course, the two red years can't really take into effect. The last 18-19 was 96. So again, we just seen that and it's down. Now, the reason we only go back 4 years with the Hibs is because that's when the HIB alleged category came in. So the reporting was kind of different. So to try to compare it to a year that didn't have the HIB alleged category in play, that would really skew the numbers a lot. So that's why we have it there to compare it to those years. The alleged HIB, as you see there, 88 in 21-22, and compared to the last full year, 84. So even that's, or 94, I'm sorry. So that's even down a little bit. The reasons that the numbers of the Hibs have been going down is the education, the SACs, the education that the SACs have, the principals, the administrators in the building, and that HIB alleged category takes out some of the immediacy of things that are going to be, that would normally be investigated and from the beginning are going to not end up being a founded HIB. So that way that category kind of takes some of that away. And it also gives the administrators more time to work on the Hibs that need to be investigated. Couple of state mandates that have come along, bless you. Couple of state mandates that have come along in the past couple of years. Threat assessment, that has been the big item that has come up over the past year. In 22-23 school year, starting in September, threat assessment teams must be in place in every building. Now, what we are, myself and Jen DeStefano have been working with one of the guys at the state DOE who is running this program, and they're kind of using us as a model as to how bigger districts can get taken care of. To have 19 individual threat assessment teams is not going to work. It's just too many people. There'll be too many thinkings, too many different strategies. So hopefully, this has to be written into the legislation when it gets to that point, to the Assembly and to the Senate. Hopefully, it's going to be for the bigger districts, one threat assessment team that would cover the different buildings. Now, could it be different levels, 3 assessment teams? Yes. We're still working that out. Friday, I'm going to advanced training on the threat assessment training. The gentleman from the state's going to be there. We'll talk again, and hopefully I can have an update that I'll send to Dr. Malash to tell you where we're going with that and what's going to be best for us. But 19 is definitely not going to work. 1 may not work, but as I said, different levels or geographically, however we're going to do it, we'll figure that out as it goes on. Body-worn cameras for campus police. It was mandated back in September of 21 that all patrol officers in the state, sworn patrol officers in the state, wear body cameras. Now, our guys are police officers. They're sworn police officers. They don't have that patrol aspect. So the AG putting the policy together has exempt anybody that's assigned to a school for wearing body cameras in the building during the academic day. They do not have them on. They do not have to wear them. They're not mandated to wear them. However, they are mandated to wear them at any extracurricular activity, football games, basketball games, wrestling matches, back to school night, anything that's outside of the regular academic day. The wording is when there is any reasonable chance that an incident is going to escalate to a use of force or an arrest. Being around this business for the past 37 years, that could be anything. So that's why they have them on during, when I say on, I mean wearing them. They're only activated if there is an incident outside the building, never inside the building. In fact, I have told them they are not to wear them inside the building. So that way there's no question as to, that part of it. So that's the 2 biggest things that we have going on with mandates. Mark. some of the things that have gone on in the past few years, and we have some newer board members that haven't been around to see the presentation. So I kept some of the older stuff in. Strong emphasis on character education, teaching children the right way to do things and the proper way to act, which is tremendous, and it's done just great by the team that takes care of that. Mandatory annual review of our district's crisis management plan. We do that every year. We have to sign off on it every year. Phone numbers change, positions change. Some of that stuff lags behind, but the actual procedures and policy stuff that we have in the crisis management plan are updated every year. Sometimes it takes a little bit to get everything caught up. And when you do, something else happens. Continued campus visits by Cherry Hill Police. They're on campus every day. They don't always park and get out. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's all according to their staffing. And as with everything else, they are understaffed. They're busy and they're understaffed. We try to take as much as the load. We, being campus police, try to take as much as the load off of them as possible. That happens in the buildings. And we have a fantastic working relationship with Chief Kemp, who I've known for years. And of course, we get along very well, especially with the investigative division, who we have to send some like bagels and donuts to around Christmas time, because they do an unbelievable amount of work for us. And it's a great working relationship. Mandatory training. Campus police officers have to go through the exact same training as a regular police officer on the street. They go to in-service training with Cherry Hill Police twice a year. They are mandated by the state, a program called CLEAR. Each year, it's a different subject matter that goes that gets sent to us. They have to complete that. It's de-escalation. It's different cultures, how to understand and deal and act appropriately with different cultures. There's a SRO, school resource officer, which would technically are not. They're campus police, but they still have to go through school resource officer certification along with me. I actually had to do it because any liaison with the local police department has got to have that training. So all of our people are trained in that. So again, cultural proficiency and service training, it's all taken care of, it all mandatory. And we have to report back to the prosecutor's office and the attorney general's office. School safety specialist, myself and Ms. Sugars are designated school safety specialists. You have to get a certain amount of hours each year to keep up the certification. And we get very good opportunities to do it. So it's really not that hard to keep up on it. So in fact, the class on Friday, I'll be going to will count towards that. Mark. Memorandum of agreement with the Cherry Hill Police Department and the County Prosecutor's Office. It's a mandatory agreement that's done with all counties in New Jersey. And it states that there are certain things that need to be reported to the local police department if it happens in a school building. And that's for everybody's safety. And we have that luxury of having our own guys there to make sure that happens smoothly. CHPD records management and their dispatch, we work with, we put our reports in there. It's one seamless program that we use. Campus police officer does a report, he sends it to me, and then I will send it to the appropriate police supervisor to review it, and then they send it to records or follow up on it, whatever needs to be done. There's direct communication every day in each building with each campus police officer that's assigned to any building or any area, to the elementary east and west area, that direct communication to Cherry Hill Police. We carry the same radios the police carry. We are on the same frequency. So if anything happens, it's an immediate radio transmission. We don't have to worry about any sort of telephone calls or 911 or making sure the phone battery's charged. It's a direct communication with radio. The Megan's Law notification, that again is mandated by the prosecutor's office. Cherry Hill Police detectives take care of it for the most part. If they get backed up a little bit, they'll ship them to me and we'll make sure they get out to the buildings. And the buildings have a certain procedure that they have to follow to get the information to the staff in the buildings. Continued practice of conducting monthly security and fire drills. That's also mandated by the state. We do that, we document it, and there's a myriad of things that have to be, of criteria that have to be met in order to make sure that Dr. Malash can sign off on the report at the end of the year that we have done our drills correctly and fully. Our passive alcohol sensor program, we just upgraded that thanks to Ms. Sugars with our safety grant, is it? From our Health and Safety Committee. We got brand new ones. The old ones are falling apart and becoming extremely expensive to fix. So we bought new ones for each building, and they're ready to go. I just got to get them out to the buildings. There's district-wide protocol for doors staying locked. Doors, interior doors are locked. Exterior doors, of course, are locked, never propped open. The interior doors are locked with what we call lock blocks now, as they're getting sent out to all the buildings and installed by campus police and the custodial staff, so that the doors in the classrooms can stay locked. The door knobs themselves can stay locked, but there's easy entrance in and out without the door shutting all the time, except in the case of an emergency, of course, when we have to lock the doors. Alyssa's law compliance was completed, and that is direct 911 access to the police department by way of a silent alarm. That was part of the legislation. It had to be a silent notification. So each building has that capability. And I think, Ms. Sugars, with that installing, I think we then got some grant money to finish up the rest of the stuff, correct? Yes. Completion of the swipe card system and all the cameras and the lockdown buttons, which immediately, if the building needs to go into lockdown, the button is pushed. Direct notification to Cherry Hill Police and campus police, and the appropriate response will be conducted there. Stop the Bleed program. We have a lot of Stop the Bleed stuff around the buildings. We had a grant for some of it. We bought some of it. It's a program that is an online learning experience. It's very simple. Basically, it's just to have a lot of stuff. If you have to stop a lot of blood, is what it basically comes down to. Incident command system, which is a federal system. We train all the time with Cherry Hill Police and Cherry Hill Fire. I went through an advanced training with that we then filtered down to the campus police. Everybody knows their place when something happens. There's nothing worse than an incident happening and somebody not knowing where they belong. Everybody will know where they belong, from superintendent down to me. Internal affairs function, which is required by any police department in the county. We have that taken care of. Campus Officer Hafner serves as our internal affairs officer, and he reports to the prosecutor's office. The Resiliency Program, Mr. Mayor was talked about this when it came up on the agenda. I think it was policy and legislation. Joe Baldessare, who is assigned to West, is our resiliency officer for the campus police. That is, if the campus police have any personal issues or any work issues that need that sort of help, they go to Joe. And it's also if the officers, because everybody has all the campus police officers had to go to basic training. Joe had to go to more advanced training. They're also taught to see if or to detect if there's any sort of an issue with a staff member or even a student at that point. But students, of course, would be turned over to the SACs and to the counselors. But it's an all-encompassing thing. It's just another pair of eyes in case somebody sees. It's like in case one of the campus officers sees something that is concerning, and get the person the help that they need. Our stakeholders are basically everybody in the town, the board, the tremendous support that we have gotten from everyone, parents and students who are our clients, teachers and staff. I can't tell you, as Dr. Malash says, in my 8th year, the relationship that I have with the principals, I just love it. We talk every day. Sometimes it's good stuff, sometimes it's bad stuff, but the communication is fantastic, and we rely on each other. There are things, education, I will never ever learn that most of the principals have forgotten more than I'll ever have a chance to learn, and I get to bring my resources from my years in my business to them, which it's a very good thing that's going on there. PTA representatives, I've presented to PTA on a number of occasions. Campus police, of course, and the security staffs in the high schools, the emergency services, the rest of the emergency services in the township, and our entire community. Any questions? Ms. Tom?
I was just, well, you talk about the emergency, if there's actual emergency, like someone down 911 from the classroom or whatever, does the door lock itself or the teacher had to lock the door or the lockdown, what they call them?
Well, it's all, the security protocol is going to be based on whatever that emergency is. If it's a medical emergency, the doors aren't going to be locked. If it's somebody in the school, an active shooter, somebody with a weapon that's going to, or they feel is going to do any sort of harm, then yes, the doors do not lock automatically. They have to be locked by the teacher or either the magnet or that lock block. Actually, the lock blocks are on these doors here. I installed them. You'll see them, what they look like. They would be slid to the side, door would be shut, locked, the shade would come down. Now, this one just happens to have a pre-installed shade. We also installed security shades years ago. So they're in place.
I assume the teachers will have to pull down the shade and lock the door
They will.
on the emergency, like the intruders. Okay.
Yes, for
Thank
intruders,
you.
absolutely, yes.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Mr. Mayor, yes.
The threat assessment teams as mandated by the state, what skill sets are required of the members of the team?
They're looking at a complete portion of each building. Student assistant counselors, administrators, students, just for their input and their voice and to hear, what they're hearing. And campus police, of course, it's still floating. A lot of it's still floating in the air. They wanted to get it in place as soon as possible, that then realized that it needs to be slowed down a little bit. So I went to training in July, and it was still being hashed out then. I'll get more information on what they're exactly looking for on the teams Friday.
Right.
And I'll make sure Dr. Malash gets it on Monday.
And if based on the information you get and whatever you're able to provide to us, if you believe there might be a role, for the board and
Absolutely.
right, we check.
Absolutely.
Also on the reported incidents that go up to the state, who is responsible from the district to report up for, is that your responsibility, compiling data from the various schools, or do the individual schools report up to the state themselves?
It is my responsibility to make sure everything gets uploaded. Campus police responsibility is to fill out this form for the different incidents. The four major categories under the incident portion, they'll fill them out. They get sent to me. I then upload them into the SSDS system. We have to sign off on that in the end of the year also, that it's been done. Now, HIBs work a little different. Our software that we use for the HIBs is called Hibster. Once an HIB is done, Hibster automatically generates one of these. So all I need to do at that point is print it out and upload the system, or upload it into the system. Now, the rumor is that once this makeover from SSDS is completed, when that Hibster SSDS form is completed from the data that the student assistant counselor puts in, that it automatically is going to be populated to the state. That would be wonderful, because that's probably 3/4 of the ones that I put in. So if that gets done electronically, automatically, that would be fantastic. But more on that to come.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Fleischer?
Thanks for the great report for us, Tony. I appreciate it. And I also like to hear about our relationship with the, Cherry Hill Police, the county police. And I just was wondering, is there an actual training schedule that you have, or is it one time a year that everyone has to do an active training together, or how does that work? Because I know I've seen it before, but I just didn't know what type of schedule it has to be in.
Sometimes we have all of the in-service training is done through Cherry Hill Police. I send our guys there twice a year, spring and fall. And that's when they qualify, and that's when they do the AG's updates, and that's when they do anything that's mandatory. It's 2 full days of training. That's scheduled by Cherry Hill Police. They give me the schedule, and I plug our people into it. Most of the other training is virtual, which is good because we don't have anybody replace somebody if they're not in a building. So they get to do it on their, during their quiet time, and they get it done. Like this year, it's an 8-hour, the program is slipping my mind at the current moment, that we have to go through this year. And sometimes, I guess it was 3 years ago, we did the full blown scenario at Crucy. That was a state thing that we volunteered to host, which we will never host again. More than glad to participate, but we are not going to host it. Of course, as long as Dr. Malash agrees with me, we're not going to host it. It was way more trouble than it was worth, and don't really like getting pushed around like we did. So we'll be more than glad to help out. We'll do anything that needs to be done as long as it's done in another district. You're welcome. Ms. Stern?
So thank you for the presentation.
welcome.
Just curious about the vandalism piece. So I think what I think of in my head when I hear the word vandalism, I don't always think of as probably the things that actually happen in our schools. I've heard quite a bit this year about bathrooms and people, I guess,
Yep.
I would think, people putting things in our plumbing situations that creates expensive problems to fix and problems for our students to use our bathrooms.
It does.
Is that like, so, and I've heard the word vandalism used associated with that, that kind of stuff, some other kind of behavior that leads to
The
problems with
vandalism.
parts of our buildings. So
Yes, the vandalism category is one of the 4 main incident categories. Under the vandalism category is arson, computer trespass, damage to property, false public alarm, theft, and trespass. The one we use by far more than any is damage to property. Now, a lot of the stuff last year under the vandalism category was driven by social media. It was the soap dispenser challenge. Now, look, I don't do social media, so I wouldn't even know how to get this information, but luckily people that I depend on do. That was one thing. There was another challenge on social media that was damage to school property. But that was a few of them. But the vandalism category doesn't exactly, it's not all vandalism stuff, but that's the category it's put under. But yes, most of our vandalism category was taken up by damage to our buildings. Absolutely. Graffiti, broken windows, that kind of stuff. Anything else? Mr. Tom?
This might be out, I'm not sure. The type of cameras we have, am I allowed to ask that type of question? If not, just let me know. Oh, that's all right.
You can ask, you can certainly ask.
Okay, that's fine. I'd like to know, do we have the AI type of, I guess, visual camera? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Yeah, facial recognition with the AI camera.
Yeah, we're not,
Okay.
that would be confidential information.
That's okay.
That's
Well,
fine.
thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, Ben,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Awesome presentation. I guess just one question. Is there something the board can do in terms of advocating that there be a single team or 3 teams versus 19 that would be, is there something helpful we could do?
Yeah, I think when we get to that point, I think probably a letter of support or something like that from the board would go a long way. Like I said, I'll get more information on Friday. I know the last thing that they want to do is have 19 different teams, they being the state, because like I said, we're kind of on the cutting edge with this because we're a little bit ahead of the game with it. So yeah, I definitely would need the support. I think that'll go a long way.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Well-
Yes. Oh, sorry. Oh, yes. This is Elmer
This
Stratton.
might be I don't know who can answer this, but are we still able to see, like I know the one time we were able to see how we stack up against other districts of our size. Is that still on the state website for us to look
I
at?
think so. I think that's information.
Yeah,
that's
I believe
available.
it is.
Yeah.
We'll, I'll hunt that down for you, Ms. Elmer Stratton, and put
Yeah.
it out on Friday in the memo. But I
Yeah,
believe so.
that's-
We can talk tomorrow.
Yeah,
Tony.
that's open source material. That's available. Each dish now, I don't know how they would break it down, but each district's total SSDS numbers, and I'm sure the HIBs are pulled out from the actual 4 categories of incidents. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's open source.
Okay, thank you very much. And then we will move on to our next presentation for Dr. Mosh to introduce.
Thank you, Mr. Avadia, and thank you, Mr. Saporito. I appreciate the presentation and the time. We'll look forward to hearing from you and seeing you again during the course of the year. We appreciate you being at all of the board meetings. So the next presentation, very excited because a number of our building principals and assistant principals are in the room with us tonight. And they're going to be joining Dr. Mahan and Dr. Morton to address an update on the building goals. So as a Board of Education, you work with the administration. We spent a lot of time back in the spring until early in the summer working on the district goals for this year. And then following that, Dr. Morton, Dr. Mahan, and all of the building-based administrators have been working on building-based goals in August and September. So they're here tonight to give you an update on what they're doing, where they are, and what it means, how that from the district level works down into the building level, what it looks like at an elementary level, middle school level, high school level. So Dr. Morton, I think it comes to you.
Yes, sir. So Dr. Malash, Dr. Mahan and I sharing your excitement and having several of our building administrators here as well. We recognize the fact that the board went through an intense process in developing district goals, and we're really fortunate and happy that the goals were presented to us at a time at the outset of the year where we were able to take a look and ensure that we could align the expectations of each building with that which the district has deemed as being integral and important for our students' success. So again, building administrators are here. They're gonna have an opportunity just to share. They're gonna go through not what's happening at each individual building across the board for every goal, but they'll give samples of what's happening in each of the themed areas for our district goals. So we have elementary represented, middle school represented, and high school represented as well. I believe Mr. Reardon is going to get us started. So Mr. Reardon, you can take it away.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Morton. If we could go to the next slide. So there are 3 goals that we're going to be looking at this evening, and the way that we broke them down is that each level chose one of the goals. I'm here representing the elementary schools, and I will be addressing student wellness and providing examples for student wellness across the district in all of our elementary schools. So student wellness is creating frameworks of learning and support for all students to develop the skills needed for social and emotional wellness. You always hear sometimes the terminology, we're the same but different. We do basically the same things across all 12 of our elementary schools, but it looks a little different. So we took this goal, student wellness, and we broke it into 3 different parts. We broke it into grade level community-based projects, zones of regulation, and a principal read-alouds. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about each one of them. So you could see from the first one, I provided some examples. So being the principal of Stockton, I get to put my example as first in regards to a community-based project. So all schools do community-based projects in some way, shape, or form. So I wanted to choose a couple and again, represent every building in the district as doing something within this goal itself. So we're very proud in the month of January, we do our Super Bowl. That's our first grade class. And they get very excited about it too, once they realize what that actually means in there. But what we do is we do a school-wide collection of cans of soup, and we donate it to the Cherry Hill Food Kitchen. Most of the schools who do collect do in fact donate all their collections to the Cherry Hill Food Kitchen in there. I don't know the total number at the end of the year, what we did, but about 3 years ago, before COVID, we did about 1,200 cans, and that was done in November. So we've switched ours around a little bit. And again, we go to our Super Bowl. So keep that in mind when you see something. You could always donate some cans of food, soup to Stockton. You could see at Sharp, they do winter warmth. They collect coats for different charities. There are food drives in multiple buildings throughout the year. What we started to do is that, a lot of us were just doing it at the Thanksgiving time. So now we've kind of built it over different parts of the year so that we can provide additional foods to the food pantry throughout the year itself.
Another school is doing Alex's Lemonade. And again, there's a lot of schools that do service-based learning projects. So at Stockton, each grade level is responsible for a service-based learning project. That enables the students to get involved, not only inside the school, but outside of the school. They devise the project. They write up, how we're going to get the literature out. They talk about how we're going to do it. The teachers obviously assist them with this, but then they're in charge with collecting all this information. We've got Ronald McDonald House that we're involved with. Mothers Matters is another group that we're involved with. Children's Hospital is another group that one of our schools is involved in, as well as MLK Day service. There's a number of schools that also do a lot of community-based projects through there. So although I gave you just a couple of examples, I could probably spend this entire board meeting just talking about all the different projects that we do under just that one piece of the goal. The second piece of our goal into there is zones of regulation. And let me just talk to you a little bit about what that is. Zones of regulation are, they're designed for students. It's a curriculum, probably written about 10 years ago. There's a couple of books written about it as well. Our principals have and the staff have kind of reworked it into the buildings in a lot of different ways. But it's really for students to develop awareness, feelings, and emotions and alertness. This ties directly into the second step curriculum that was introduced last year by the Board of Education across all 12 elementary schools. So it kind of couples with it. It's married to it, and it's just another support piece or taking the second steps curriculum to the next level. What it does is it provides tools and strategies for regulation, pro-social skills. We also always hear the anti-social skills. We do it in a positive way, the pro-social skills, as well as self-care and overall wellness. There are a number of projects that are being done throughout the district itself. Over at Woodcrest, they have what's called the classroom calming corners. They have calming worksheets. They have calming writing assignments. I'm not sure if a calming writing assignment is kind of doesn't kind of go together, but they have that, and I respect that, and they're doing a lot of great work with that right there. Over at Hart, he's got smartometers. I would leave that up for the principal to come over and explain that to you. I was talking to him about it, but they have an approach called the Nurtured Heart. I know a little bit about it because when I was a principal of the alternative high school, we introduced the Nurtured Heart on the high school level. So you could see these programs are actually cross levels as well. So what we're doing is the introductory types of pieces to it. We do a lot of restorative practices in the elementary schools for zones of regulation, restorative conferences. We use common language now and consistent language throughout the district. And I was giving MAN as one of the examples that is really working towards that. And over at Kingston, they're doing multi-age bulldog packs. That's where older students in the building are working with younger students. And again, that's not unique to Kingston, but it's being done in a lot of schools. I wanted to mention each school in the program itself. And finally, principal read-alouds, and this comes in a lot of different forms. We have teacher read-alouds. Some of our principals post them. Some of them went to the classroom. Some of them read them over the PA systems. But again, it's also over at Kingston. They've tied a lot of these into the second step connection. That's the program that was developed and brought into the elementary schools. There are shout outs at Johnson. There are buddy classrooms over at Payne. Buddy classrooms is that the classes kind of mixed together and they kind of, we don't do a lot of that, but at Payne, they're doing it right now. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Guy, who's going to take over for the next goal and middle school.
Thank you, Mr. Reardon, and good evening. So we're going to talk a little bit about purpose and passion. I'm going to take this slide and then I'm going to ask Ms. Smith and Ms. Metzger to come up and talk with me about the next slide. So I'm just going to try and encapsulate purpose and passion. It's where we as school administrators and as educational staff are working with our students around instruction. And then we take what we learn from that instruction, which everyone calls data, but we just call information, ways in which we can understand how kids need to be intervened for or need to be enriched. Intervened for if they're not meeting our local and our state standards, and then enriched if they are meeting and expanding those local and state standards. And we also do that through social emotional learning. So it's not just our academic curriculum and instruction that we're looking at, but we're also looking at our 35-minute advisory programs that are at all 3 of our middle schools. Next slide, please, Dr. Morton. So I'm going to ask Ms. Smith and Ms. Metzger to come up and help me as we talk a little bit about data teams, the new middle school schedule, and social emotional learning. So I'll talk a little bit about our data teams, and then I will pass off bullets to whomever will be next at this point. When we talk about data teams, we actually have our curriculum and instruction supervisors come and do walkthroughs as it relates to different contents: math, science, English language arts, and social studies. We have these walkthroughs so that we can see how the curriculum is being taught, but also how students are receiving the instruction. And we do this work and align it with our standards from the focused teacher evaluation model, which is our kind of upgraded Marzano teacher evaluation tool. And we do that through the lens of critical content, and we do that through the lens of engagement. So our curriculum supervisors and our building administrators are looking at data from curriculum and instruction as it relates to what is critical, what's essential that kids absolutely have to know and be able to do. And then how are the adults in that classroom really taking time to engage those students? So I'm going to let my colleagues talk a little bit about the middle school schedule and social emotional learning.
So the new middle school schedule, in previous schedules, there was the flexibility at times for different academic cores to have extended learning periods based on an internal team schedule. What that didn't ensure was equity across all of the grade levels or all of the teams or all of the LCs or all of those houses. So with the new middle school schedule, each of the academic cores does get an extended learning period. One of the things that is common across Rosa, Beck, and Crucy is working with teachers to utilize the intervention and enrichment approach that Mr. Guy referenced previously. So every core has the benefit of that 78-minute period. Specific to each of the cores, there are times where students need to be regrouped for intervention or enrichment in that academic core. And we're working together with teachers to best utilize that time based on the information or the data that Mr. Guy referred to group those students and to provide students that need support, additional support, and students that can move forward and enrich their curriculum, those enrichment periods during the regular day schedule without asking students to come in early or come in after school to get that additional support.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm excited to talk a little bit about the social and emotional piece of this. Like Mr. Guy said, in order for kids to be successful academically, we need to make sure that they're feeling okay socially and emotionally and ready to learn. So some of the pieces that I will talk about is, again, that advisory period that is being used across all 3 middle schools with a combined vision. So all 3 middle schools are following that same schedule, using that advisory period, and it provides us with opportunities for teachers to be paired up in that advisory period to provide additional supports during that advisory period. We also, as Mr. Reardon referenced, we're also using the Second Step program, which is a combined community effort to talk about those social and emotional pieces for our students to feel success. I will speak a little bit about the Crucy Cares framework. So that is our purpose and passion at Crucy, where we decide and set expectations. So it was a group effort with our students and our staff. We involved Crucy Congress with our students from our advisory periods to come together and say, what do we want Crucy to look like? What do we expect our hallways to look like? What do we expect our classrooms to look like? And if they don't look like that, what do we do, right? So Crucy Cares is an acronym that really talks about caring for ourselves, caring for others, and caring for our school. So that is really what we've been doing at Crucy. So if a student makes not the best choice, I may say to them, how do you think this was caring for yourself? Or saying that not nice thing to one of your peers, how was that caring for others? And it just makes the students really reflect in a way where they have ownership, because we all are part of that Crucy Cares framework. And the last piece I would like to talk about is the 6th grade anchor trip. So this is part of the environmental studies program that our sixth graders have gone to. Crucy is going for the second time tomorrow, and we're super excited about that. And it provides our sixth grade students an opportunity early in the year to really get to know each other and do some bonding and some relationship building while being out in the environment and supporting the sixth grade curriculum. I'm going to introduce now for our high school purpose and passion, Dr. Tony Damon.
Good evening. I'd like to ask my partner, Lauren, to come up with me. We'll be talking about connecting beyond the classrooms. And I asked Lauren to join me because even at the high school level, we know we have two wonderful high schools, but we have a third that supports our work with our students who need a little bit more support. So the high school is the last opportunity to get it right before we send our children out into the world, right? So it's very fitting that we really take serious the opportunity to connect beyond the classroom, give the students a taste of what they're going to get before they get out of there. And we do this by providing them opportunities that truly connect them beyond the classroom. And you'll see from some of what we talk about, we will be doing this through guest speaking opportunities. We give them internship opportunities, field trips, a chance for our children to spark an interest in something. Because the truth of the matter is while we know that our young people should come into high school with an idea of where they want to go, many do not. And so we just provide different individuals to come in and just talk about their life experiences, trips that give children an opportunity to think about different things. So what we do, and I'll speak about West in particular, but you should also know that a lot of what we do, we include alternative high school. And the first thing I'll talk about is the conference that we had an opportunity to go to this year. It was the SREB conference for CTE, and it connected teachers and administrators to opportunities with industry partners and post-secondary partners. And Lauren went with our team and we had a blast. We came back so energized. Our teachers came back energized. And to me, that's what it's all about. If your teachers are ready and willing to work, then we know our students will get that. We also have membership in what's called the ACTE. It's an Association of Career and Technical Education Administrators and Educators. We also do guest speaking opportunities, and some that I'll speak about were we had Temple University medical students who are going to come and do a panel discussion first for our students, but then they want to follow that up with actual medical club, because many of our students want to go into the medical field, but only thing they know about is a nurse or a doctor. But there's so many different fields in the medical field that they're going to start talking to them regularly during the lunch and learn opportunities. We also have the Cherry Hill Police Department as a partner, and we have them coming in and doing a police club with our students. So many people just know about the police that we see patrolling the highways, but what we don't know about is some of the civilian opportunities, some of the opportunities in computer information systems, and just all of the other areas that police officers can go into. We have career exploration presentations by many of our partners, one of which being Wawa. And while sometimes you think of Wawa as maybe a high school opportunity, but we've had individuals come in and talk about how much of a wonderful job it is in adult life. They give, reimbursement, tuition reimbursement. They have stock opportunities, medical benefits. And one gentleman that came in said his employees can earn upwards of close to $100,000 if they stay with the company long enough. And so certainly that's something for young people to think of. And they hire our students now and they can grow into the position that they want. We also have, we had Dr. Linsky from Temple University, from the Office of Psychology and Neuroscience come talk to our students. We had the University of Arts come and speak with our vocational, functional vocational students, as well as our regular ed students about opportunities. We've had Remington and Vernick engineers come in, and Camden County has come in to speak with our students. Another big thing that we like to do is to get the students outside. It's all nice that they come in and talk to you, but when the students get a chance to go out into the field, that brings a whole new level of interest for the students. So through our Career in Tech Summer Bridge program, we did a variety of wonderful trips for our students. They went to the municipal building, they went to Kingston Swim Club, the Public Works, and Croft Farms. And through these opportunities, the students were able to see how different departments work together to collaborate for grant writing, for community planning and development. So just a lot of opportunities for the students. And just wanted to say again, we have Camden County College, Stockton College, RCBC, all of which we plan to go to this year because we're trying to make our students in the career and tech program see the program to program alignment so that you start in high school, you get dual enrollment there. You can go into either a 4-year or a 2-year school and carry those credits with you and go on and graduate. And again, working with Lauren here to make sure that the alternative students who are interested in those programs have an opportunity to go with us. Another exciting thing we want to talk about is our partnerships. I mentioned lightly last time I presented about our Jefferson Health opportunity. So we do now have students interning at Jefferson Health in the area of dietary, I believe, business area, certainly in the medical field, but also in our design and build programs. One thing that came out of that is just recently they opened up a new multi-million-dollar lab, a Virology Lab. And in this lab, they have capacity to read over 4,000 test results in 24 hours. And they did that to be a leader in this state because they don't want to be caught behind like they did before, like we all did with the pandemic. So now they have capabilities to be a leader in the state. And we were invited to go. And while I know nothing about this world, I was excited to see a science teacher there, you know, just engaging with some of the professionals and getting information and making connections that she can bring back into the classroom. And they even offered to give a tour. Also from this, we created a new partnership. They've asked for us to have our art class come in and put some art up on the wall and quite possibly sell the art where portion of the money would go back to the student for scholarship, but then the other part would go into a foundation to support patients who cannot afford to pay their bills. So another way that we're working with our community. And again, I mentioned Wawa, and we have Environmental Resolutions Incorporated and Quality First Solutions. So those are just some of the things that we do. Turn it over to Lauren.
Thank you. Thank you. And just to amplify what Dr. Damon had said about the conference, it was like so lovely to attend. We were able to add some new courses that align and hopefully continue the partnership through culinary and build and design in our building based on relevancy to student voice and what they were interested in studying. And again, for us, it's really about presenting something that sparks the light. That starts the fire and helps the children continue to grow, learn as a whole human being. That's really what we do on our campus. So while it looks very similar, just a little bit different. We have partnered with West through our SLE and CBI program. We're very fortunate to share the travel trainer for the district with West. We brought her over last year, and she's a huge support to our program, especially getting us out for interviews, college tours, community service, buying materials to do community service, budgeting, and many things within our science curriculum that, for example, you know, the students all built individual terrariums. They were able to price out, call the store what it would cost to buy a full terrarium and transfer all the snails, shrimps, and make it a self-sustaining ecosystem. And then with the help of Pam, they're able to travel, execute a budget, take public transportation, and come back with the materials and build the sustainable, you know, whole living ecosystem. So, and all of that was generated by student voice and interest. It was nobody's idea but theirs. So it's really lovely to be able to accomplish those things and have the kids own the whole process. And that's kind of where we're going. As far as community service projects, we've participated in several, many with Kingston School, Thomas Paine. We have another one planned with Russell Knight for this year. Our goal for this year is to complete 5 service projects in collaboration. Most recent one is partnering with Kingston to redo and redo and make an interactive panel in one of the hallways where the students work together and the board, you're able to come to the board, reflect on it. There'll be different sets of mirrors. The kids will all paint different words and they'll be able to hang up things that make them feel good about themselves. Like, I am strong, I am kind, I am confident. Teachers can take the kids to the board when they need a minute just to remember who they are. And that actually starts next week. So it's just been a really nice thing for our kids to get out. They volunteered at the Star Games. They've actually helped support some of the track and field days at the local elementary schools last spring and will continue to do so. And another thing that we're introducing this year are Connect plans. We're starting with our seniors. So each senior has come in and kind of set the foundation for where they really kind of want to go. And the Connect 4 plan is basically just connecting them to strengths through different inventories, different recommendations from other staff, where they come in and write nice things about the kids so they really understand where their strengths lie. And then perhaps choosing a goal or two underneath the guidance of preferred adults, and then actually mapping out a plan on how do we get there. So for each kid, it looks a little bit different. Every student will have the opportunity again to travel, go out, take trips, join trips with West, East, wherever they align. And finally, connecting them to the services to support those goals when they leave is another big piece of what we're building in this year. We're very much looking forward to the build and design and culinary for our freshman and sophomore classes to select students to pair and potentially partner with West so that the kids can all work together. And just here are some highlighted photos of some of our community service work, some of Dr. Damon's community service work and partnerships within Jefferson, I believe, right? Yeah. And then just some of our things that our kids also raise their own fund, so everything that they need, they actually come up with initiatives to raise the money to fund it. So it really is a whole process that students own. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Periodically throughout this year, at least several times, we look forward to having other building administrators come and present to the board as well and provide updates on building goals and student achievement and the like. So we'll turn it back over to the board for any questions.
Mr. Mayor?
So really no questions. I just want to thank everyone at all levels for the presentation. Not only, is it great to see how all the schools are working in parallel with the district goals that are so important to us. But it's wonderful to see such a really vibrant focus on the social emotional learning aspect, and all of the efforts and programs that all the levels and all of your schools are doing to help develop better social skills. Not to take away from the academics that are so critically important, but so much of what we hope that our graduates take with them is the ability to be a better and more informed citizen and more supportive of one another and understand what's important to them and what's important to others. And these are the sorts of programs that I think do that. And so it's wonderful to see, and I'd look forward to more of these kind of updates in the future and different programs and more enhanced programs and ideas that you may have that we as the board can be supportive of and in the future. So really well done. Thank you.
Dr. Root?
I also largely just want to make a comment. I'm especially excited to hear about all of the different opportunities to learn about fields at the high school level. One of the things that we talk about in my field is, amongst all of my PhD friends, is the hidden curriculum. The hidden curriculum kind of refers to the fact that a lot of first time college students, and I happen to be a first generation college student, their families don't necessarily have the educational background to lead their kids toward different goals or to know what all of the possibilities out there are. And, so at the PhD level, you see a lot of white kids from Yale and Harvard whose parents are academics. And that's a problem. And it's beautiful to see that you guys are presenting all of the different possibilities that are out there to these kids at a younger age, because a lot of times all it takes is for somebody to say, hey, there, you can be a doctor, but there's like 10 other ways you can contribute to a hospital environment. You can be an academic, you can get a PhD and become like a scientist, but you can also go into industry and look at policy or be a bench scientist or a technician. And there's so many different ways to contribute. And, sometimes unfortunately just, people aren't exposed to that stuff when they're kids. My applause, like, excellent, awesome. One other comment, I like the idea of the for Mr. Reardon, I like the calming writing, but I would like to recommend to Woodcrest that maybe you do some like calming multiplication tables. I certainly would have loved that as a kid. I'm joking. Yeah. So thank you for everything you're doing, guys.
Mrs. Tong?
Yes, thank you for the great presentation. I think I have a question to ask. Like I said, I'm not sure if I asked the right question, but if not, just let me know. I'd like to know, how do the student reach out to find out about these internship programs that's available to them? Is it to the guidelines, the teachers, or the student has some type of communication with the building principal, or?
Great question. And so I would say all of the above. So what happens is the counselors are definitely there to let the students know about all of the opportunities, but the teachers also, because we make sure that our teachers are very much aware, the administrators, it's like an entire school community that knows the movement that we're doing to get the students prepared for the next step. So our students can really go anywhere. It's interesting also what happens is some teachers and administrators and folks see in students something they don't see in themselves, and they pull them to the side and put them in an opportunity that would be great for them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Winters?
Thanks. I just had a question about community service projects at the middle level. I know we have a new middle school schedule with a slightly shortened advisory period, and I know that community service wasn't really able to be done during the pandemic. So I'm wondering if community service projects have come back in that advisory section and what that looks like, and also if there's consistency across the 3 middle schools as far as you know.
Thank you, Mrs. Winters. Yes, community service is alive and well. At our middle level, we tried to execute community and service in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. That usually is done through the advisory program. I can speak for Rosa. I will let Ms. Smith and Ms. Metzger speak for Beck, but we do have a pamphlet that we give to students. It is both a hard copy and it's online. If the students lose it, they can use their agendas, which our gracious PTA has purchased for us every year. And then they can log that community and service. And that community and service, now that we've learned from the pandemic, can be both asynchronous, it can be synchronous, it can be virtual, it can be in person. And then at Rosa, we have a community and service project in the 8th grade in which all of our kids, we have groups of between 2 and 4 that will present either local or global service learning opportunities that are linked into some of the core academic contents that they've been working on. So we do have that program. It is executed in through our advisory programs in that 35 minutes, along with social emotional learning and our arts program. So we do a lot within that 35 minutes, but we can also expand it, as you heard Ms. Metzger say, within our 78-minute period. Those are opportunities for those core contents who may also be those advisory partners that you heard Ms. Smith partner up with, can talk about kids and expand those and link those to social studies, link that to English language arts, link that to mathematics, and link that to science as well. You're welcome.
So similar to Rosa, Beck will continue to work through the advisory period by grade level. Our student government is actually what works with our grade levels to select projects for the year, to select focuses that align with the core values. at Beck. One of the additional pieces as well that we're working on enhancing is the opportunity of clubs and activities to be doing service learning as part of their club and activity work. Some of them are directly related to service activities and community service. Some of them, such as Animal Lovers Club, is looking and identifying projects that they want to support. So students across all grade levels are exposed and have the opportunity to participate in service learning as a grade level, but we're also seeking to enhance some of those clubs and activities and even branching out into our sports teams and those types of things to really make it part of the core values across not only academic program areas, but extracurricular program areas as well.
I feel like we're all saying the same thing in the middle school, so I'll just be brief. At Crucy, and similar to what Ms. Metzger said, we do have the advisory period where we are making plans. The peer leaders are actually, our Crucy peer leaders are doing a clothing and food drive. So if you happen to walk through the lobby at Crucy, the main office, we have big boxes that we are collecting things for the holidays for, and our peer leaders are driving that. So again, using our clubs, using our sports teams to really decide what and how we want to help others. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
So these kind of presentations are particularly exciting for me because, you know, we hope as board members, I'll speak for myself, I always hope that the work that we're doing, the time we're putting in is aligning very closely with what is happening in our district, and also that there's fruits of the labor, you know, for all of us. So this kind of presentation was there's lots of fruits. So just thank you. I also want to mention that for me in particular, it's really nice to hear about the amount of consistency across schools that's happening, that's being focused on, because that's something that we hear a lot about and talk a lot about is, you know, how do we have kind of equity, which also includes consistency. So just those few comments, and then I have some questions. Last comment, actually, and this is for the elementary level, just to validate, it's great to hear some of the specific interventions and programs that you guys are using at the elementary level. I know from my own work in the mental health field are best practices, and so it's really nice to hear and see things that I see in my office that I know we use in mental health work are being directly employed in our schools. So critical to have that, those pieces. So at the middle level, I just wanted to understand a little more about this core period, which I'm trying to envision what that period looks like, you know, and which academic, I'm guessing it's the core academics, but I don't want to guess. I'd love to know a little bit more which classes, and also you have different levels of learners. You have learners who are very successful and don't need a lot of support and actually probably want to be more challenged. You have learners who are kind of right in the middle, and then you have learners who are struggling. And I have kids who've been in all those categories. So could you say a little more about like what that period looks like?
Yeah, so I think you're referring to the 78-minute block, right?
Correct.
So the opportunities that we have within the 78-minute rotating block, we have a day 1, a day 2, a day 3, a day 4 at all 3 middle schools. So students will have in that day 4, if it is mathematics, in grades 6, 7, or 8, they'll have one 78-minute period out of that 4-day period. What will happen during that time is there'll be a normal lesson, but then there'll be opportunities for the teacher at that time to intervene for kids who are not meeting those grade level standards that need to be met. But for kids that are meeting and exceeding those standards, there will be opportunities to enrich those students. We'll do that in small groups. They may take them outside and do different activities. They'll use our media centers in all 3 rooms to be able to work on that. If there are opportunities, Beck and Crucy have 3 teams and houses per grade level. We have 3 teams at the 8th grade level and then, or learning communities, and then 2 at the 6th and 7th grade. If there are opportunities for overlap where those schedules will work, we saw during the 78-minute period yesterday, and if you check out our Instagram, you can check this out, that our scientists were outside doing physical science and expanding using rate and time to be able to calculate things within physical science and mathematics. They use the 78-minute period, and LC Learning Community 8 and their names have changed, sorry. Learning Community 8 and Learning Community 9 use that to do that work outside. We've learned a lot from the pandemic that kids need to be outside more, they need to be expanded more. Those were kids that, now the 2 teachers had small groups of kids that needed more support and that weren't meeting those standards. And then they had other small groups that were working and meeting those standards and exceeding those standards by using their hands, by being outside, by talking about pieces that will transition into what Dr. Damon and Ms. Giordano were referring to later on in their 9 to 12 education. So that's what we're trying to accomplish within the 78-minute core block that happens once every 4 days.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's great to hear. Okay, can't leave one level out, right? So I have some questions for high school level. So, I mean, I think connecting beyond the classrooms is one of the areas that I think is probably, out of all of our goals, is expanding the most intensely right now, I would say. So it's exciting to hear just how that's happening, how fast it's happening, because it wasn't that many months ago that we got our initial presentation on the CTE development and the grant money and stuff. It just sounds fantastic. I did wonder during the presentation, because all the other presentations represented all the schools. I wonder which of these opportunities that are happening at West and also at the Kohl's program, are those similar opportunities happening at East, where we have our largest number of high school students, and or, you know, what would be the plan for that to happen? So that's my first question. I have more. I can list them out.
Yeah, that's more appropriate for me to answer. So there's similar opportunities that are being provided at East, not the same opportunities, but similar. At some point, Dr. Perry will actually, I believe at our next scheduled principal's presentation, Dr. Perry will be here and he can speak to specific things that are happening within High School East to that align with the goal as well. But I can tell you that, yes, they have similar opportunities.
That's great. Thank you. The other question I have is, what role are guidance counselors are playing with this piece? Because, you know, obviously there ends up being a select number of students who can participate in these connecting beyond the classroom activities. We have large student body, and I'm just wondering how much exposure, which you did talk about with teachers, Dr. Damon, you touched on that, teachers engaging, which I do think is the primary source that our kids are going to engage. But I think our guidance counselors also can be a helpful in maybe identifying students, or I don't know, I'm not sure. I guess my question is, what's the role they're playing? And also, how are we engaging parents of high school students to be aware of these activities and opportunities for their kids, and to whatever degree they're interested, you know, being informed and supporting them. So those are my questions.
Yeah, Ms. Stern. So guidance counselors are intimately involved in career planning and the entire process. Guidance counselors, I know for a fact, are on the team that Dr. Damon has in terms of identifying CTE opportunities, aligning pathways for specific kids. You figure the guidance counselors meet with children and their families ongoing and probably have the greatest sense of where, you know, children would like to see themselves go in terms of post-secondary opportunities. So they're definitely involved and are integral, super important in the process. Your second question about parental involvement. So last year, when the initial CTE programs were going forward, Dr. Damon and Dr. Perry and Ms. Giordano hosted a combined parent information night. And that sort of focus on parents and attempts to provide information to parents is something that's been at the forefront of, I think, their leadership and their ideas and how to best grow these programs. As we move forward, they'll continue to do that. Documents and literature will go home about specific programs and specific opportunities, but there'll also be FaceTime opportunities where parents can come in and sit with Dr. Damon and Dr. Perry and Ms. Giordano and have what I like to call eyeball to eyeball conversations where questions, can be asked and those questions can be answered.
Thank you. I guess the last piece as a follow-up to that is, as a board, I would say that we often have conversations with Dr. Malash directly, right? About, what are pieces that we can support as a board, what could be helpful. And I kind of want to just, say, I think that's something as all these presentations, there's so much great stuff going on, hopefully continuing information flow continues through Dr. Malash towards us as how we can continue to provide support for all these, things that are going on that are very exciting and quite honestly, very positive. So.
Okay, Mrs. Fleischer.
Thank you. I did want to echo probably everybody about thank you so much for your hard work and your colleagues' hard work on actually what Mrs. Stern said about sort of bringing our district goals to life, which is really amazing for us to see this happen. And I love the creativity. And also another thing that we touched upon is the consistency that's happening throughout all the schools, which I think is great because all our students are able to have some type of the same experience, which I think is a wonderful Cherry Hill thing to have, like all of them going through something very similar. And I did also want to echo what Mrs. Stern had said. As far as, when we sit down to help write the goals, it's amazing that you're sort of the stewards of what our work has become. And I think a great thing would be, for our future, for any board, whether it's this board or any board, to have that communication back through, like you said, Dr. Malash, and helping us, if you see places that you would see, where there could be strides that maybe we're not thinking of, or, just steps along the way, we would love to have that type of conversation. It would only help us propel our district even farther. So thank you so much for your enthusiasm, and I appreciate you talking tonight. Thanks.
All right, I'll add my thanks. And, please stay. We're not in a hurry for you to go anywhere. It's only 8 o'clock after all. But I appreciate that. And I just echo the sentiments of the board. Thank you. Come back as often as you can. And we look forward to hearing more. Now with that, all right, with that, we do not have administrative reports unless you'd like to add. No, okay. All right, so no administrative reports. We've got correspondence up next. And would anyone like to start with correspondence? Mr. Mayor.
Two things, both similar to one another. First, this past Friday with a few other board members, or a couple other, I was able to attend the senior homecoming breakfast at Cherry Hill West that was held for the seniors on the football team. Also cheerleaders and band at both schools, Cherry Hill East and Cherry Hill West. That was sponsored by the Cherry Hill Zone PTA. Great event, incredibly well attended. Just one of those opportunities to celebrate the kids and the hard work that they've put in for 4 years. And it was wonderful to be able to be there with them, to stand along the sides and just watch it. They deserved it. And presentations by the students were great to hear. It's good to see so much enthusiasm by the kids as each of the students was brought up, whether they were a football player, cheerleader, or band member. They were enthusiastically supported after a couple of difficult years when they weren't able to do that in person. To be there to see that And just, they were joyful. That was great to see. And then Saturday, again with a few of my colleagues and Dr. Malash, I was fortunate to be able to attend the game itself, the East-West game, a wonderful tradition. It's one of the great things about Cherry Hill is that we do have two high schools, and when it's appropriate to compete and on the athletic fields, it always is. It's great to see that and be there. I was also able to do something that's always important to me as a father. My daughter was there with the girls varsity soccer team, Cherry Hill West. I was repeatedly being texted by her because I was on the field, and that was a problem for her apparently. So she reminded me how embarrassing I was just being there, and she was particularly upset that I chose, because I didn't want to favor one school over another, although everyone knows where my students go. I wore both purple and red, which I thought was the right thing to do. And it would have mattered what I wore. I was out there and I was embarrassing to her. So I knocked that out of the park, which is something I do easily and often. But anyway, it was a great event. Again, wonderful to be able to be there for that. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mrs. Fleischer, you are next.
Sure. I actually, it's been so long, but I actually went to Crucy's 6th grade back to school night and East back to school night because it was the day after our last meeting, and it's been like such a crazy month. So we were still talking about back to school nights, and it was wonderful to actually go to the middle school and the high school. I loved that. And this past weekend, I actually went to Harvest Festival for the township. There were thousands of people there. It was really well attended, and it's nice, like what Mr. Mayor had said, everyone's back in full swing in person. So that was really great. And then this morning with some of my colleagues, we went to the PTA Zone breakfast, which was really great. But the one thing that is amazing, and I always think it's great, the second time I've been for the last year, is the culinary students that make all the food. The vegetable empanadas were awesome this morning. They are great. And I will actually go there anytime they're cooking, because that program at West has been amazing. And it's a fun, that's my highlight, as well as thanking all the PTA presidents and Zone PTA, and having all the principals come for their enthusiasm to get out the vote for everything. It was really great to thank everybody for their help. So that's it.
They're favoring this side. Mrs. Winters, anything? Okay, Mrs. Elmore Stratton.
I attended I'm not sure if it's called back to school night, but here at the alternative high school, back to school daytime. That was it was really great to be here with the parents that have students that at our alternative school. And it was a job well done by the staff and admin here to make all those families that came feel very welcomed. Was able to see the presentation for Latinos at West at Kilmer School. I think that was that. Okay. And that was really well done. I love that it was a lunch and learn type of situation, or a dinner and a show. And it was great to see all the young people that were excited, and the high schoolers as well. So I hope I can get out to that again, because that was my first time seeing that. And I loved being able to go to the breakfast, because I am a parent of a past football player who didn't get a breakfast because of COVID. So he was very upset that I went to this one, but it felt really good being there to see all those parents be excited, and have all those seniors be recognized. That was pretty awesome. I loved that. And I got to wear my East and my West colors. So wasn't able to get to the game. So, but I've heard big things from my son, who came back from school to go and see it so badly. But I'm glad that our community really comes together during homecoming. So that's been great to experience the last couple of days.
Great. Stone, you went to Chef, right? The golf dinner.
Okay.
Did you want to report anything? Go for it.
I went to the Cherry Hill Education Association last week with Marian, and I think Dr. Malash was there as well. That was a good chunk of money wasted. So 40,000, that's a lot. Not in one day, right? Is it one day? One day, that's, oh, it's actually right here. That's why it is, right here. I write notes on it. And I also actually went to the communication networking solution by the Eastern Telecom with the camera security, things like that. And they will talk about AI thing. That's why I asked. Not that I don't know what's in there, but we can learn around it. So I think there will be the NGSBA. Okay. That's for my report.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Tong. Ms. Stern, got something?
I'm trying to think of probably the only different piece to add of a couple of things that I attended was that I did also go to the Hispanic Heritage Tour to see Latinos at West, but at Payne. And I understand there may be another board member reporting on spotting Dr. Malash dancing. I did not get that privilege. Instead, we sat together. But it was really an amazing group and presentation led by, 2 teachers who were just really energetic. The kids were it's really exciting to see groups in our schools celebrate their culture, their heritage, and share that. There was a lot of enthusiasm. We definitely need a new PA system at Payne. It was it's old, it's clearly old, but despite that, the students did a great job. And there was a student teacher involved and he was energetic. It was the first time I've been to that celebration, and that tour was great. So, yeah, a lot of the other activities people went to, it's kind of all a blur, but that's it.
All right. Got a couple things. First, oh no, wait a second. Okay. I know what I was gonna do. There is a tradition. I don't know when it started, but I figured I don't want to be the guy who doesn't do it. So at this point in the meeting calendar, we typically read the people who are brave enough to be running for public office. God bless you all. So the way it works, and I want to be fair in this quasi-virtual public space, in-person world that we're in. So the way it works, as I remember it from years ago, and perhaps has continued, we offer anyone who would like to stand up in the room. However, to make it fair, I also want to open it up to cyberspace to raise your hand. And if you do that, I will say your name so you can participate with us. Now, the only way I can think to do it fairly is to do it in ballot order. And so if you would like, stand and be recognized. Thank you for putting yourself forward for a difficult but very meaningful job that we've all come to know as Board of Ed. And the names are Kimberly Gallagher, Benjamin Ovadia, Adam Greenbaum, Gina Winters, Sunny Reed, Renee Sherfain, Nicholas Gaudio Jr., Jennifer Sharman, Kathy DeCampley, and Joel Mayer. All right. I'm gonna stand because I feel like,
You're ready.
I don't want to be the only person in the room standing. Now, I don't see anyone who's raising their hand. Correct me, but you know what? I'm not a disinterested party. Dr. Malash, will you verify?
There isn't anyone that's online that's raising their hand. And in the room, Mr. Greenbaum is here.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you all for standing and for standing up for Cherry Hill. Which brings me to correspondence number 2. This past Sunday evening, all 10 candidates whose names I just read in ballot order were invited to this very room at this very place. I got to sit in Mrs. Arroyo's seat. It was interesting. I learned a lot just by the different vantage point. But, our thanks to the Cherry Hill Zone PTA who curated questions from the community. Our thanks to the League of Women Voters who, as a disinterested party, because the 2 that joined us were from out of town, they were very kind and generous and calm and gracious. And they took us through basically a 2-hour forum bit of a, round robin. So it was really, really nice. Congratulations to those two groups. Elections matter. We've got, 4 open seats, obviously, on our board here. So that was a very meaningful experience, and I was glad to take part. And on October 6th, we had a pretty big day in the community. I don't know what they'll call it years from now, but today we call it the bond vote. Perhaps, as the legends grow, it will be called, I don't know. But perhaps it will be called, was it the day the earth stood still? I don't know. But anyway, but there are a lot of people to thank. And so I felt I'd be remiss not to. So Dr. Malash and I are splitting a list that we've pre-curated. Today is largely categorical. It's not a lot of names, but really the entire community and many professionals came together to get out the word, to tell people, to talk to people about getting educated and to vote, and to be part of this democratic process where this township decides, what it does in this moment. And so I just wanted to, thank from the bottom of my heart. I know many are exhausted, and as all of us, but just some of the groups who came together, who really helped us build community, get out information, and encourage people to vote. One of those is Cherry Hill Zone PTA Executive Board. Very early on, very active. Eventually, as it rolled out, all building-based PTA executive boards and all parts of PTA in our community encouraged everyone to go out and vote. The Cherry Hill Education Association, the Cherry Hill Association of School Administrators, previous board members, some from many years ago, some from just people who sat in this chair right before me. But previous board members got very involved. We know many of their names. Key communicators, and there was intersection of the last two groups I've mentioned, but key communicators that raised their hand and that engaged out there. This gentleman, Dr. Malaj, Mrs. Sugars, Mrs. Wilson, the team, the superintendency, central administration, and everyone who worked so tirelessly, diligently get out information. Our town council in Cherry Hill and the leadership that invited us. This is where we, Mr. and I kicked off public presentation and all the council members that went around. And then eventually there was a video that was very nice. So town council was really warm and generous and very kind. Our mayor Susan Shenangulo, who was so excited that, 3 minutes was not quite enough. And that's great. That kind of enthusiasm was often infectious as we talk to people on the ground. Advocacy groups of many kinds, neighborhood groups that came together, specifically that hosted us, the Chinese school at Beck and Temple Beth Shalom at the end. We had a bit of a public forum. Thank you to them for hosting us. Thank you to the Seniors Advisory Board that let us present, and to the Cherry Hill Planning Board that let us present as well. And lots of individuals, one particularly I remember has like an imaginary segue, but anyway, with lots of individuals that came together and that talked to people and their neighbors, and that made sure that, the word was out and that people could engage. And I think, over the course of this campaign, I think I met, by far more people than I ever did running for office. And it was a joy. And so I'll turn it to Dr. Malaj to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Avadia. And thank you for going over that part of the list. We also want to thank the current members of the Board of Education, the seated board, especially the leadership, Ben of you as president, Miriam as vice president, and the role that you played, the two of you, in making yourselves accessible to the community, and the opportunity for all 9 members of the board to share information. A special thank you to the entire central administrative team, the assistant superintendents, the directors, the staff in their offices, the work that they did, again, to share information. Paul Green, as the solicitor for the district, played a vital role throughout the entire process, with his interpretation, with his advice, and with his counsel. The building principals, their teams, the teachers, the staff members in the buildings, and the work that they did to share information. Bob Garrison, Brooks Garrison, and Christine McBreedy, and the team at Garrison Architects, and the work and leadership that they provided in terms of the development of the projects and the sharing of information. Sherry Tracy, who's the financial advisor from Phoenix Advisors that we work with directly, and who we are spending quite a bit of time with now as we prepare for the sale of the bonds. Tony Salamini, who's the bond counsel, and the work that he did in preparation of the bond question, and again, his ongoing counsel about next steps in the process. Rob Notley and the team at New Road Construction, and their work and oversight, and their ongoing work that will continue as the projects are beginning to be initiated. It's certainly, we talk often in education about a community and the community coming together. In my career, I've never seen this level truly of all the different stakeholder groups and members of the community come together, around an individual project and an individual topic. There was certainly lively discussion and debate that went on for a number of months leading up to the vote. So incredibly grateful to be a part of the community in Cherry Hill. And I'm thankful for all the work that went into where we are today.
Thank you. Now, Mrs. Winters, you are up.
I don't know how to follow that. I feel like it was so long ago since we did this. So I did go to the Russell Knight PTA meeting to talk about the bond referendum. And I fielded a lot of really good questions from the people who were there. It was a pretty packed room. It was great to be there. I have 2 kids at Russell Knight, so it felt like home. I went to the very last back to school night in the district. I think maybe the alternative high school was right after me, but I was at Crucy for the 7th and 8th graders. So I think we were the last 2 Corinne, and that was a really nice night to be at a Crucy. I spent a lot of time hanging out at the PTA table where the spiritware was hot. Was trying to find sizes for everybody, not very successfully. But it was really fun to be at Crucy and get to know that community. For the week of respect, I got to go to Johnson Elementary School and read to the 5th graders there. We read a book by Jacqueline Woodson and did a project talking about what makes everybody unique, the things you can see on the outside and the things that you don't see on the inside, things that people couldn't necessarily tell by just looking at you. And the students then did an art project that's now displayed at the school based on what makes them special and unique. So I thought that was really neat for the week of respect. I also got to go to the best of all Hispanic Heritage Month celebrations at Barton because we got to dance on the stage. Dr. Malaj did not know that one of my talents is that I can salsa dance. He can now too, because we both got to be on the stage and with Latinos at West. It was a really awesome day. I was told it was the first time that Barton had had a full school assembly since the pandemic. And it was just phenomenal to see all the kids so excited to be in the APR together again, and to see the interaction between the high schoolers and the elementary schools was really spectacular. I mean, like, that's what the district should be. It's that building of communities, the interaction. It's the elementary kids looking towards the future and seeing how vibrant it can be. And the high schoolers are so excited to be giving back to the elementary schoolers. So I really, truly appreciated being part of that. And also especially the dancing. That probably was my favorite part. There is video if anybody wants to see it. And then I also attended the homecoming events, the breakfast, as well as the homecoming game, where I also embarrassed my child by being out on the fields. He was hiding with his friends, not acknowledging my existence. So that was good. And then I was also at Zone PTA this morning at the breakfast with a lot of the other board members, administrators, and the PTA members. And that was really cool to see everybody and personally get to connect with them again after the craziness of the bond referendum, and thank them for all the work that they continue to do for the benefit of the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, we are now up to student representative reports. Now, Elizabeth, are you ready to go first? All right, because today you don't have competition, but actually I do have a report for each, but I'm going to let you go first. Let us know how it's all going.
Okay. Hi, it's great to be back. About a month since I've been here, but so to get us started academics. So a lot of talk about what Latinos at West has been doing. So Latinos at West and Latinos and Amigos at East has joined forces to help people in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic after Hurricane Ian and Fiona. And Latinos at West has been on their Hispanic Heritage Tour through the elementary schools on October 4th and 13th. They visited Barton, Kilmer, Payne, and Johnson. And extra support is also available from our NHS peer tutors in a variety of subjects. NHS will also be supporting the in-person homework club that is offered after school for any student earning a grade below a D or any student who needs any additional help. As a reminder, the RCBC dual enrollment window is now open. Deadline to register is October 28th, 2022, and AP students should consult their teachers to see if their course is eligible, as well as any honor students. Italian 3 and 4 classes decorated the E-Wing hallway with facts about Italian History Month, as well as inspirational quotes for Italian Heritage Month. And in athletics, the East versus West football game was on Saturday. West took the win 54-13 to keep the boot for 10 years. Girls volleyball had their strikeout cancer event on Monday, October 17th. And the girls soccer team played their second round of the Coaches Cup yesterday, defeating Rancocas Valley 2-1, moving on to semifinals. The West Cross Country team will be competing in the Olympic Conference Championships on Wednesday, after competing at the Camden County Championships this past Friday. And boys soccer defeated Middle Township on Friday to move on to the second round of Coaches Cup. Unfortunately, they lost yesterday, but they still have playoffs. And girls tennis has their next match next week. And in the arts, the West Marching Band once again took first place in a tournament of bands competition at Millville High School this past Saturday. West Singers had their annual hayride at Springdale Farms, and Cherry Hill West's production of Joseph and His Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat will be on December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Mr. Avadia. Auditions for Cherry Hill Public School students enrolled in 2nd to 6th grade will be on October 22nd from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. In our extracurriculars, our photo club will meet most Mondays after school in room A10 until 3:30. Aspects Literary Magazine will meet on day 6 during LB2 and F21. The Diversity and Inclusion Council has been working to make school a more diverse community for the end of the school year, and they're planning a community day. Student Government Association is planning a food drive for the week before Thanksgiving. ROTC has been doing the color guard at our football games. They will do it at our last home game on Friday against Morristown. This is also senior night for football and cheerleaders. Homecoming was on Wednesday, October 12th. We would like to congratulate our homecoming king and queen, Nye Gomez and Lexi Lipford. West has hosted the homecoming breakfast on Friday as well, recognizing senior football players, cheerleaders, and band members. And the police club has their first meeting Thursday, October 20th during LB1 and LB2 in room A6. We had an activities fair on Friday, October 14th, where students were able to learn and sign up for more activities and clubs offered at West. And in school news, students from West and East worked together to contribute to the school start time committee on October 12th. The Principal's Advisory Council meeting was held on October 4th, and students were able to give their perspective to Dr. Damon on some issues that concern them, as well as lend their voice to some of the pending school-based decisions. On October 17th, there was a student town hall meeting with Dr. Malash discussing what is happening at Cherry Hill West, and students were able to voice their opinions on school spirit and culture, academic improvements and changes, and the new dress code that is currently being reviewed by the Board of Education. And the drop-off location has also changed to improve traffic on Chapel Avenue. Students may now enter through the main entrance, A-wing entrances, and F-wing by the DF crossover, which is also known as door 49. And we would like to congratulate Mrs. Roscoff, who was awarded the very first Lions Pride Award for exemplifying the core values of the West Way. And it is also School Violence Awareness Week, and we want to help spread awareness by participating in dress-up days. For tomorrow, we have wear your favorite sports team gear. For Thursday, we have wear anything orange. And for Friday, we have wear your school spirit. Also, today we had Mrs. Valley, our student advocate, meet with students discussing anger management. Tomorrow, we have another discussion about healthy relationships and setting clear boundaries during lunch. And on Thursday, we have Officer Baldassar, who will be speaking with students in Mrs. Valley's office in D1 during lunch about cyberbullying laws and the legal ramifications of cyberbullying. it's been a busy month at West, and that's all I have for tonight.
Okay, thank you. Next time I'll prepare a song to sing to you from just because it's one of my favorites. All right, great. So the Aiden Root, who is not able to be here tonight, but they did provide an update for East. Unless anyone else would like to read it, I will just go right on in. On activities and events, East has held a number of recent exciting events at the school as the school is truly coming back to life post-pandemic. We had our activities fair in which dozens of clubs welcomed new members and marketed themselves to the student body. Clubs have been meeting regularly and filling our morning announcements with updates about their meetings and events. Next, we had our first Pep Rally in 3 years. This was a fun, full school event, performances from our band and cheerleaders, recognitions of our senior fall sports athletes, and games like musical chairs and table surfing in the DeBart gym. Later the same day, East held its biggest ever homecoming dance titled Hokarade. Yeah. Hokarade. Hokarade. A mashup of homecoming and a masquerade ball theme put on by both student government and East's Thespian Society. Over 1,200 students, half the school attended the dance, and thousands of dollars were raised for the host organizations. Finally, East Sports have been continuing their strong efforts, including a hard-fought loss to West in the homecoming football game, and a string of amazing performances from our girls tennis team, leading them to the sectional finals where they are competing today. Congratulations to all involved. On policy and student voice, we continue to hear positive feedback about the proposed dress code revisions, which we hope will pass tonight on first reading. Additionally, East students have voiced strong support for the proposed new women's history course and a proposed ethics course, with hundreds of students supporting the potential electives in East Side surveys published online on October 2nd and October 13th. We hope to see these courses approved by the BoE for next school year. That's all this month. Thank you. And tonight, we have a special third presentation. Dr. Moshe, are you going to introduce? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Avadia. We do have a recorded presentation, an update from the Kohl's alternative program. Mrs. Giordano, the principal, has been working with the students. This is something we have talked about and the board has talked about over the course of the last couple of years. This is something that they worked on within the school. Miss Mallory and Mrs. Wilson and Dr. Morton have been supporting Ms. Giordano putting it together. So this is the first update from the Kohl's alternative program, and I expect that we will see these periodically throughout the course of the year.
Hi, my name is Echo and I am in 10th grade at Alternative High School. I'm excited to share our September school highlights with you.
Stay with us. It's going to be on. And as we get this set up,
Hi, my name is Echo and I am in 10th grade at Alternative High School. I'm excited to share our September school highlights with you. Hi, my name is Echo. Hi, my name is Echo and I am in 10th grade at Alternative High School. I'm excited to share our September school highlights with you. The garden has been brought back to life by the work of teachers and our wonderful students, including the Intro to Sustainability class. Students learn how to weigh the harvest and sustain plant life. With work and routine since last year, we are able to harvest plants such as tomatoes, peppers, string beans, and squash to donate to the South Jersey Food Bank. In September, we donated 62 pounds of produce. 6 of our students on September 12th, 15th, and 22nd started making and baking dog treats as well as apple and banana muffins. The AHS students have a mobile cart and travel around the entire building every Friday to sell these items along with pretzels and bottled water. All the staff who work in the Arthur Lewis Administration Building are great supporters of our school. On Wednesday, the 28th, students and staff wore pajamas to school. Those who remembered to wear them were very comfy that day, and some people probably wish it could be year-round. A guest
We're getting
speaker,
there.
Claudia, taught us about her Puerto Rican heritage. She said how hard it was to move and transition to living in the United States. Hi, my name is Echo and I am in 10th grade at Alternative High School. I'm excited to share our September school highlights with you. The garden has been brought back to life by the work of teachers and our wonderful students, including the Intro to Sustainability class. Students learn how to weigh the harvest and sustain plant life. With work and routine since last year, we are able to harvest plants such as tomatoes, peppers, string beans, and squash to donate to the South Jersey Food Bank. In September, we donated 62 pounds of produce. 6 of our students on September 12th, 15th, and 22nd started making and baking dog treats as well as apple and banana muffins. The AHS students have a mobile cart and travel around the entire building every Friday to sell these items along with pretzels and bottled water. All the staff who work in the Arthur Lewis Administration Building are great supporters of our school. On Wednesday, the 28th, students and staff wore pajamas to school. Those who remembered to wear them were very comfy that day, and some people probably wish it could be year-round. A guest speaker, Claudia, taught us about her Puerto Rican heritage. She said how hard it was to move and transition to living in the United States. She taught us about the Puerto Rican flag, landmarks like castles, trees, and traditional Puerto Rican food. She will be coming back to cook a Puerto Rican meal with us in October. On Thursday, September 29th, many students participated in a car wash to fundraise for our school. They learned to first rinse the car off with the hose while having fun and spraying each other. Next, they used the soap to scrub the cars until they were covered in a soapy mess just like each other. The students helped rinse off all the soap and dry the car, and in the end, everybody was happy with the outcome of cleaning the cars and raising money for our future field trips. Some things we're looking forward to in the future is our beautification at Thomas Paine and Kingston Elementary Schools, the Hispanic Heritage Month cooking lesson, Cherry Hill Alternative School apparel, writing and filming a horror movie in English class. Mr. DePatri's 12th grade students are in the middle of a horror unit. Since learning about the 3 levels of horror and reading several horror stories, the students must create an original story and produce it into a movie. Field trips.
That's it. Thank you, Mr. Plavinsky. We apologize, folks. Again, as a new process, we're getting through with using it. So thank you to our tech folks for working through there. And we'll look forward to additional updates from the Alternative High School at future meetings.
Great. And we're looking forward to seeing the horror movie.
Me too.
We'll do a
I
special
have
screening.
I have a cameo role in it.
Oh my goodness. Are you salsa dancing?
I am not.
Okay. Not this time.
And I don't think I've salsa danced yet.
Okay.
That might be kind of horror.
That's okay. Not kind of.
Well, that brings us, thank you. That brings us to first public comment. First, yes, the first one. There will be 2 opportunities for public comment this evening. This is the first. This is for board action items only, 13 to 16. There will be another public comment for any topic at the end of the meeting. If you're a student, you can comment at either one. Please identify yourself as a student. Online and S is always helpful, and you would get to go first. If you would like to speak now, please identify the agenda item and clearly state your name and municipality. Unless you're a student, then just your name and municipality. We will alternate between speakers here in the room and those that are online. Each speaker will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to speak. The timer on the screen will indicate the amount of time you have remaining. Cherry Hill is a community that values education, and educational topics often bring out a passionate response. The Cherry Hill Board of Education supports a school climate in which our diversity is a source of strength and all are included. Respect is foundational in how we treat you, how we treat each other, and how we support our administration and staff in their essential work. Please join us in practicing the utmost respect for all. And by convention, let's see, unless this is a student, and it's not, then we start in the room. Dr. Yaris.
Yoni Yaris, Cherry Hill. There's a couple starting with, not that one. 14.7. As Dr. Damon shared as part of the presentation, I'm really excited for our district to be taking a deep dive into career and technical education. My research has often touched on that, and it's awesome to see the shift that when I was a student in this district, where we were going in the complete opposite direction. It was science this, science that. Let's take everything. Everyone's doing great at math and science. It's going to work out really well. And now we've seen a pivot again and back to making sure that not all students are the same. And I'm really excited for the district to be engaging with that. Moving on to 15.2, termination of employment. My family was really, really sad to see Mr. Art Johnson putting in for his retirement. I encourage all of you to come visit Kilmer to see the incredible artwork that elementary school students put on because of him. He'll be really missed. Alana and I were not able to hold our gasps from our children when we saw that one. We tried to keep a poker face on for our children when we read the agenda, but we utterly failed. We've gotten to know him very well in our 4 years, I think now at Kilmer, 5 years. It's been a really long time, and he has been a highlight. And even especially during the pandemic, what he put on and the videos he put together were something my kids look forward to every day. Whenever those got posted when they were home, trying to get through it all. Going on to, I think it's in 15.4. My family is also very excited to see the return of Family Friendly, also known as Homework Club for the kids. It's an incredible program done at Payne and Kilmer. It really helps students, especially those with IEPs and who are those who just need more structure or have unique family situations or just need that time where they can do their homework at school with the extra support with some really incredible educators. The team at Kilmer has been pretty much together since the entire time we've been in that school. And it's just a really great experience. My oldest looks forward to it every year. Has been looking, asking, when is it going to start? When is it going to start? When it's going? And I think there's nothing better that you can have when it comes to education for your child to be yearning for it. And I'm really grateful that districts continue to support that. Thanks.
Thank you. On the line, we have Dr. Podowitz. You're next.
Jeff Podowitz. I live in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I'm talking about policy 16.2 P511, new dress code and grooming policy. Please vote no. First, please modify the language of the new policy. Hats and other headgear must allow the face to be visible and not interfere with the line of sight to any student and staff, etc. This new policy will mean less responsibility for administrators. It basically puts all of the onus on the teacher and the other students in the class. They have to complain and then prove their complaint. Can they take pictures in the class to prove their complaint? If you revert back to the simpler hats and headgear and head coverings, other than for religious purposes, are prohibited inside buildings, it's just so much simpler and protects the rights of students that don't want to be labeled as complainers and may suffer the consequences of peer pressure. Second, the new policy states the responsibility for the dress and group of a student rests primarily with the student and his or her parents or guardian. Administrators and school board, if you are giving guardians and parents primary responsibility, you need to listen to and follow the individual parents or guardian's voice concerning their child. The new policy goes even further. Clothing must not threaten the health or safety of any other student or staff. Administrators have the power to make that decision. In addition, the new policy states if the student's attire or grooming threatens the health or safety of any other person, violations should be consistent with discipline policy for similar violations. Again, administrators will make the decision, and that decision by administrators could result in draconian penalties for the child, and since the parent or guardian will be made by the board's acceptance of this policy by your vote for the parents and guardians also. If the administrators are not listening to the parents and guardian view about their child, why would the board give the school board allow the administration the power to hold these individual parents or guardians responsible for what the kids are wearing, and also even worse, for the finger maybe to be pointed at them that they are causing that, the same violation.
Thanks, Dr. Podowitz. We appreciate your comments. Back to the room. And that will wrap our public comment number 1. We turn to Dr. Melange for superintendent comments.
Thank you, Mr. Ovadia. I'm going to keep my comments brief because we haven't even begun the agenda really yet, and it's 8:45. As we're in the middle of October, again, I've had the opportunity to be out and about in all of the schools. Liz talked about that I sat down with a group of students from High School West yesterday. I was with students from Crucy today. Honestly, some of the best time that I can invest in what I do in my role is to spend time with the students in the buildings and hear from them about what's going on, what their experience is like. And it's been very positive to hear from them. Not necessarily that all their experiences have been positive, but very positive in terms of how they express themselves. Very thoughtful, very reflective, and they want things to continue to be improved for their experiences, whether it's the seniors in high school like Aiden and Liz, who we hear from here on a monthly basis, or whether it's the underclassmen, who have been there, or the middle school students with whom I spent time at Crucy today. We have spent a lot of time talking about dress code over the last couple of weeks. In fact, one of the reporters from the Inquirer joined us at West yesterday. I expect there'll be an article that'll be coming out relatively soon, just about the discussions that have been going on. There's been a lot of talk in district about dress code. We've had a lot of input from students and from families and from staff members. The board policy that's up for the first reading tonight, there was a lot of discussion at P&L to let into it. And I'm looking forward, honestly, after the policy is adopted and goes through in November, to see the discussions that take place at the schools, to see what does that look like to put it into practice. So we're looking forward to each of those steps going on. We are still experiencing some significant delays with some of our transportation with buses. It is still happening. It is still happening at times on very specific bus runs. I've talked to a couple of parents in the last week, just, concerns that the elementary buses are not arriving home until 4:30 every day. I don't know that we have a solution for that at this point, other than that could probably be what the time is going to be, unless we can get additional bus drivers from the bus company, which we are not optimistic about at the moment. So we expect that the schools will continue to share information, continue to put information out as buses are late. We appreciate the patience that people can provide. I always have continued, for years, the zone PTA folks will tell you, I bring it up at zone meetings. I encourage everybody who's eligible and interested to get a CDL. There are lots of bus driver jobs out there. What I used to always tell the PTA folks was I encouraged a group of them to get together and to incorporate. There is a business model that exists. You don't need to own any buses. I am sure you can lease buses from the bus yards relatively inexpensively and pick up the runs that you want to pick up. There's a model out there that exists. In terms of hiring, we are still hiring in district as well. We are still challenged with filling some of the specialized positions with special ed at the secondary schools. That's also content specific. We're still hiring for educational assistants. We are still hiring for some content areas as well. We are always looking and encouraging people to apply to be substitute teachers. The guidelines for substitute teachers did change over the course of the last 18 months. If you have questions, let us know. We'll direct you to Source for Teachers, ESS. It's the third-party group that we work with about how to get certified. You don't have to be available to sub every day. We've had lots of our graduates, who are in college, that they have been applying during the course of the summer and this fall, that we expect when they're home on breaks, that they'll be into sub. But we are continuing to look for substitute teachers and folks to fill some of those additional positions. ESL teachers as well, folks that are certified in ESL. We are definitely looking for ESL teachers. If you know somebody that's interested, reach out to me directly and we'll put them in touch with the folks in HR, make sure we get them in to interview. Please make sure you get out and support our schools, see the activities and the events that have been going on. I've had a great time being out at the athletic events. Liz mentioned again the West girls soccer team. They won yesterday. They play again tomorrow in the coaches tournament over at DeCou, I believe around 5:30 or so. So try to head out to see them. Lots of fall athletic competitions continuing. We had our first major theatrical production of the year, took place last week at High School East. It was the Alibis, some short shows that were done, that I heard there was a great response to. So we encourage you to pay attention to the calendar, follow along with what we're putting out there, and be involved in our schools, and keep in touch.
All right, we promised action and action we will deliver. Now, this is the only meeting in October of the full board, which is a curiosity that is because of workshop and just what it is. But so actually, yeah, so usually there'd be work and action. This time it's action only. And as our first piece of action, we've got a new presenter who will take us through curriculum and instruction. Mrs. Winters, can you, or well, I know you can, will you provide an update on the October CNI committee meeting and then move the CNI agenda, please?
I will try. So I was asked to kind of recap the CNI agenda that we did on October 3rd. The first thing we did was review the yearly calendar and the connection to the board goals that we have. The committee also talked about adding restorative practices as well as something that's dear to my heart, preschool expansion to the things that CNI is thinking about. So as a member of that committee, I'm really excited to talk about that. The committee also asked for an update on the new climate change curriculum and to see what that looks like. So we're hoping to get that information soon. We reviewed the district-wide parent and family engagement policies with district-based information. And then we talked about Mr. Avadia's favorite thing, which is Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dream Code, which is coming to Cherry Hill West on December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We got some information from Dr. Morton on that awesome play that's coming up that we should all go see. And finally, we had information on a master's thesis capstone project that's happening at Crucy Middle School. There's a teacher who's completing her capstone and we'll be incorporating some video with that, but students' faces will not be shown in that video. So the committee got information on that. And I think that wraps up what we did. So I'd like to move. Oh, questions. Thanks. Any other committee members want to talk or have any questions on what CNI worked on in October? Mr. Avadia has a question.
So preschool expansion. So I've seen a lot of discussion about preschool expansion. And I did see in the community, there was talk about, funding that came out that we did not apply for. Right. So what's the current discussion in CNI?
So my understanding is that the state has preschool expansion grants available. Those grants have gone out. It was a very short time frame for those grants to go out and then implementation to occur, like a couple of weeks. And we were a very large district. So this year, we just were not ready to do that because a lot of work needs to be done thinking about where we would actually house preschool classes because the grant does not come with facilities money. So while members of the committee are interested in accessing that grant money to expand preschool for the district, there'd be a lot of considerations. It would have to be full day programs for 3s and 4s eligible. So it would be a big change from the program we currently have at Malberg. So I think some of the discussion has to do with, although it would be a great opportunity for us, I know local districts such as Voorhees have taken advantage of that opportunity. We really need to think about how we would actually effectuate it if we were to win the grant, and how that would work with the current facilities that we have in place.
So follow up, it'll be on the next CNI agenda?
Yes, there will be a presentation, I believe. Thank you, everybody. As everybody can tell, this is my first time doing this.
Mrs. Winters, can I just chime in?
Of course, please do.
Just in terms of, there will not be a formal presentation at the next CNI meeting. It is on our agenda, I believe. However, it is just to share additional information that we received. Mrs. Mallory and I will be attending a session at school boards where we hope to have FaceTime with representatives from the New Jersey Department of Education to answer the variety of questions that we have regarding preschool expansion grant.
Ms. Stern.
Just to piggyback on Mr. Avadia's questions. So one of the pieces of this puzzle is space in our buildings, right? And so I would just like to offer for when there's more understanding of what this looks like, what the needs will be, that then business and facilities can also, when you're ready to kind of involve us in that discussion and what the needs are, we can then also carry that piece as well, because sounds like it's got some nice momentum to it. So, just on that piece of it, I'd love for us to know when to add that to our agenda as well.
Excellent. I'll let Ms. Arroyo know since she is the master of the agenda for the committee. Does anybody else have any questions? Comments? The superintendent recommends, and I would like to move the CNI agenda from October 3rd. And 13.1, the report out from the committee meeting. 13.2, approval of attendance at conferences at workshops. 13.3, approval of out-of-district student placement. 13.4, approval of service contract with the Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired. 13.5, resolution approving professional service agreements between the Cherry Hill Board of Education and Southern New Jersey Perinatal Cooperative. 13.6, Camden County Educational Services Commission for IDEA Part B funding. 13.7, resolution approving a professional services agreement between the Cherry Hill Board of Education and Cooper Health System. 13.8, approval of professional development proposal, instructional coaching for co-teaching initiative. 13.9, approval of professional development proposal, math teacher and administrator training. 13.10, approval of professional service agreements for the 2022-23 school year. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Fleischer. We have a second. Are there any questions? Ms. Elmore Stratton?
I have a question for either Mr. Avadia or Joe or anybody. Because I sit on the Camden County thing, do I need to abstain from 13.6 or no? Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mrs. Sugars, please take the vote.
Okay, the board, the online voting is open. You may cast your votes.
Yes to all, Ms. Sugars.
I need to abstain from 13.2J, please.
Okay, other than the exception noted, we have a unanimous yes vote.
Wonderful. We'll turn to Ms. Stern. Can you provide an update on the October BNF committee meeting and then move the BNF agenda, please?
Sure. So we met on October 13th at 5:30. I'm sorry, October 3rd, 5:30. And we started out with actually a closed meeting because there was sensitive personnel pieces of information that we wanted to make sure we kept private. And then we opened up the rest of the meeting. In that meeting, we talked about something that we had committed to earlier in at the end of actually in 2021-2022 school year, which is to talk about our health insurance benefits that the district provides for the employees, because it is as people know, health insurance is a costly benefit. And last year we had a pretty significant increase in the cost of medical benefits, which our under Mrs. Sugar's leadership was very successfully negotiated to a lower rate of an increase. However, it was still a high increase due to increased medical costs. What's called the medical loss ratio was significant. It was 94%, which means that but 94% of what we paid towards our benefits was actually used for medical care, which is a very high number in the medical industry. Typically 80 to 85% is the ratio. So because of that, our health insurance company increased the premiums. So we had a deep dive analysis with the representative from the group that provides is our kind of broker for our health insurance. And she gave us some good information, not only about our plan that we currently are in, which of course we have the right to either continue with or look for other options, as well as a state health benefit plan, which is offered for all public school, I believe it's all public school employees as an alternative, which is relatively new. There's a challenge with that plan because that plan runs on a calendar year and our plan runs on our fiscal year, which is July 1. So comparing which plan to stick with or move to is kind of challenging. Now that state health benefit plan, actually, there is an expected 15.6% increase for the calendar year starting 2023. So that premium increase is very close to what we experienced with our plan last year. So it's hard to know, is that going to be comparable? Because we don't quite yet have our increase number for our anticipated increase for our district plan. But the renewals for the 2023-2024 school year, which is what we're actually starting to discuss now in October 2022, we should get that from our insurance provider by March 2023. So we started the discussion. We had a good discussion for our group to understand kind of all the moving parts of making these decisions for this, big part of our budget, right? For an important part for our employees. And we are going to understand more about that and revisit it, as the information comes through. One thing that was important is that part of the piece that went into it had to do with, our actual costs. And we do have, some high utilization in some of our folks who are under our plan, and that's what pushes up the cost overall of our benefits. So that's a little bit of a dry bit of information, but we did have that conversation. And I think the important piece that I hope, we can respond to if people have questions when we get to that piece is, that we're really taking our role seriously as a board to make sure that we're looking at this and making sure we're making good financial decisions for, also asking for other options, which we did talk about. And the broker organization company will provide that for us. And did provide it for us in a very detailed presentation that we got to look at. Mrs. Sugars also provided for us a review of our budget calendar, which we've all gotten a chance to review. It was both in our Friday packet a few weeks ago, as well as in board docs for tonight. And so we now have the calendar laid out for the budget development. And we've been talking about the importance of linking our budget priorities and our budget allocations to our goals, making sure it aligns with what's happening in other committees. So we're going to approve that tonight. And if you're interested in looking at it, there's an exciting preview to come, and we're going to be starting our board budget priority discussions in more detail in BNF in November. And that will be something that the board has been talking about since I've been on the board, is how does the board get more input into ensuring our priorities are aligned with how budgets are allocated. So we're starting those conversations early so that come February, March, where we actually have the budget presented to us, which has been worked on very diligently by really many employees in this district and completely curated by Mrs. Sugars and her department. We will have had multiple conversations about it. Will not be the first time discussion next year. We're starting that early. So that was an important piece for us. And then we did talk about in old business. We talked about a few things. So when we have continued to try to enroll folks who are eligible in the free and reduced lunch program, which has changed and next year will change again. there will be more people eligible starting in September next year because of changes at the state level to who qualifies. So they're raising the income threshold, which will be great. So as of that meeting, we had 1,604 families, students, who were eligible for free and reduced lunch. Free lunch, and then 345 who were eligible for reduced lunch. So that was slightly under 2,000 students. And there were also, at the time of our meeting on October 3rd, there were 238 families who were in what's called carryover status. So if they qualified last year, they continue to qualify through October of this year, but then that ends. And then our numbers of our applicants, which are due to, it's like a snapshot of the number of students enrolled in free and reduced lunch. That number goes to the state on October 15th. So that just happened. That number, it's called the ASSA count, the application for state school aid count. From that number, a number of our funding programs are determined from that number. So having an accurate number is important because that brings funding in and other resources in for those families and for our schools. Now, to be clear, although that deadline has passed, any family can apply at any time for a free reduced lunch. So that's an important thing. We always want to get that message out. We know we have families who are eligible who have not applied. Despite all the efforts of the district and many different people in the district and the school level to try to get that information out. So there's that. The other piece is we did get updates that we have a pretty high running balance for school lunches. So as a committee, we talked about that. We actually have a balance at the date of our meeting. The balance was about $10,000, which I think normally in a normal school year, the balance is usually around $15,000 for the whole year. So $10,000 by the beginning of the year is pretty high. Mrs. Sugars was explaining that probably a piece of that was that it's many students were used to getting no cost breakfasts and lunches and might have been thinking that was in effect, and families may or may not know that that's going on. So Mrs. Sugar's office, they were diligently working to contact families whose kids had balances of $30 or more to let them know that there were balances and that the program has changed. That's something we're going to have to talk about again in BNF. There is a desire from the BNF committee to have more conversations about our policies around this and possible remedies in terms of the way the community might be interested in coming together. So it's an old topic that's coming up and is probably getting more important that we revisit this because we want to make sure that we're doing from different angles this is being addressed, but there's a lot of things to consider. So that's going to come up. We also talked about at the time, it was prior to the bond referendum vote. So we did touch on the fact that, in fact, there was a plan B if the bond had not passed. It just was not a plan B that any of us really wanted to have to go to. And luckily, that's off the table because the bond did pass, which we're very grateful for. And just a follow-up to add, since the meeting and since the bond has passed, there's already been initial discussions about how the board will engage with the administration around the beginning of the bond development projects, funding, the selling of the bonds, what the structures are going to be need to be in place to ensure that our projects through the bond are carried forward in a way that very much mimics the process that got us to the bond, with stakeholder engagement, with transparency, frequent report outs, and oversight, which is our responsibility to ensure that we support the stewarding of the projects in a positive way. I am absolutely sure there will be problems that come up, and probably many pain points. And I'm absolutely sure that there will be mistakes made, because that's just the nature of construction and renovation. I think the important piece is that we have mechanisms in place to address them in a timely manner and a responsible manner. And that's something that I know BNF folks are very committed to. And I certainly have heard that level of commitment from my other fellow board members and from our administration and the staff. So tune in. I'm pretty sure that in a few weeks, we'll have more updates with a lot more in place to share about that. So thank you all. And that's all I have to say. Mrs. Fleischer, Mr. Mayor, Mrs. Tong, I know you, all members of the committee, and please feel free to jump in.
I just wanted to echo the thought of the committee about the policy, whether it goes through BNF or PNL, about the student debt that we're holding on to because of the lunches, with the $10,000 it being so early and being so large because of probably the free lunches that we've had. The other thing that I wanted to just make sure everyone knew, because and Dr. Malash made sure to let us know that every child, no matter if they can pay or not, will receive an entire lunch. They just cannot order a la carte. So it's what the lunch is, that day, what's offered. They just can't actually have anything a la carte. So they have to take like a, right. I don't know if Mrs. Sugars or Dr. Malash want to chime in about it, but I believe they have to get the full entire lunch, right? You have to get something to like drink, and then you have to get like a protein, and you have to get the vegetable, and it's got to be that full lunch. But every child, whether they pay or not, is allowed that, correct?
Yes, and thank you, Mrs. Fleischer, for mentioning that's a really important piece. And it's and we want the community to know that it's a lunch of choice. So if there are 3 lunch options, the student who's asking for the lunch, regardless of whether or not there's an ability to pay for it, will get their lunch of choice. Yeah. Other comments, questions from our meeting? I did also want to mention, I left off, there was a public comment made, and the community member mentioned that families who are eligible for SNAP automatically will receive free or reduced lunch. They don't have to fill out the application that's offered through the district. And the district, but for anyone who's considering filling out an application or knows families who would like to fill out application, is that on the Genesis portal? Is that correct? It's on the Genesis portal. Do you know what section in the portal? Not to put anybody on the spot, but I'm not remembering what section it's in.
It's under forms.
Thank you. So it's under forms in the Genesis portal for families who choose to fill it out, which we actually encourage all families to fill it out, because then we're more likely to capture families who are eligible who might not realize it. So, and that was it. Any other questions from our board at large? Mrs. Winters?
Just want to kind of echo what Ms. Fleischer said. I think, at least I know in my family, there's a big learning curve with lunch no longer being free, and also the increased price of lunch and the a la carte items as well. Somehow my middle schooler bought like $10 worth of lunch one day and didn't realize I could actually see that through the Pay Schools account, but he actually didn't realize what he had done, because it is a very different process than it had been the past few years. So I think there probably is a level of education that needs to go on, just so that kids know that, the popsicle and the chips and the water bottle and the chocolate chip cookie was not actually included in the $3 lunch.
It's a good point. I mean, I think we're really going to have to try to tackle how do we, and support the administration in tackling, how do we get that word out? Because it's an unintended negative consequence of the wonderful, opportunity we had for the past year and a half of free lunches and breakfasts, actually. So, but it's, I don't think it's going to get better right now. And I think we have to really kind of problem solve that. So, other comments, questions, Dr. Rood?
Just kind of a quick question. It's probably a dumb one, but with health insurance costs being what they are, like, is the 94% usage, is that normal, or is that kind of a pandemic bump? And the second part of that is, like, say that usage goes down, is there any negotiating room with insurance companies, or is it just a ratchet where have prices of insurance ever gone down?
So, good question, Dr. Rude. So, we actually got to see an average of the past, I think it was 5 years, and actually our average increase was about 8% when you take over the 5 years. So actually, great question. And as an educator, there is no dumb questions. So, we absolutely had kind of a decrease. I think we had almost a 0% increase the previous year, if I'm remembering correctly. And then, as happened, because a lot of people delayed healthcare services during the pandemic, but when people started coming out at the end, towards the end of last year, there was a high utilization of healthcare. And actually, because we've had the 17% increase in this current budget year, we actually believe that because we are paying more in premiums, it's very likely that our next bump will not be so significant because we've already bumped up our contribution to get more to that 85 to 80% ratio, which is a standard ratio across the country, actually, for healthcare costs. So, again, we had closed session conversations about some of the specifics of some of the people on our health insurance plans who are high healthcare utilizers, have different healthcare needs that are perhaps higher than the average healthcare utilizer. That ultimately, those are some of the things that drive the cost. So it's something that our HR department and our business office keeps an eye on, and we'll get updates on. So we'll know in a few months. And I think, again, we're lucky to have our business office under Mrs. Sugars, who negotiated the increase down by several percentage points last year, which was phenomenal. So I know we'll have that again. It's a tough call. I will share that in my office, we're going through the same thing right now, and we've had a significant bump as well. We totally different basis, different, everyone has different plans in different populations, but it is something that is definitely a larger issue. But we're hoping it'll be small, it'll be smaller. And even seeing that the state health benefits program, which is, it's not called the state health, I think it's a state education employees program. I don't know if remembering all the proper name, but that they've had such a significant increase in their premium to almost 15%. So that's pretty unheard of for them. So that just gives us a measure. And there are multiple kind of group plans that our brokers even looked into for us. And we've talked about other ones as well. So we're definitely trying to get as competitive a rate as we can, I guess is what I'm ultimately. Other questions, comments? I don't know, I should ask Mrs. Sugars, did I leave anything out about that piece? Okay. Mr. Avadia.
Yeah, just a couple thoughts. One, I think so we really need to figure out, and I think probably the biggest thing that's on BNF right now is what's the cadence, what's the structure? No one wants to be, no one on the board should be picking up a shovel. Let's just make that clear. But at the same time, it is our responsibility to have a predictable set of report outs. I don't know what that'll turn out to be. It's a good discussion for BNF, but something that, that gets reported to us and therefore is public periodically, something that, we have subject matter experts on the daily, weekly that are really monitoring these things. Especially, we also have to start to think about high and low peak, right? In the summer, we certainly can't get in the way, but we must have, all the planning pieces too. So that's something we're gonna have to work with. Mrs. Sugars has a new office, and that's going to work a certain way. We've got quite a few people we thanked who we really believe in and are appointed through the board, and we've got to trust that piece. There's a community engagement and communication that has been essential and will remain so, I think. So it's a great discussion. The second thing is when we think about feeding, and where we've been in the pandemic, I'd like to see what we can do on an advocacy level, at least. I don't know that we'll do anything on the state level, but at least on the federal level, but at least on the state level to advocate for some more help. I think, the reason that you had subscription, what it was in the pandemic, is that there is need out there. And I think that has to be top of mind. To the extent we could draft a letter, talk to someone named Lampett, or anything in that thing, I think, we want to do more than just focusing on our own budget and our own, thing to see what level of influence we can have. And perhaps school boards, there would be a session that someone can go to figure out, because, food insecurity, that's top of mind, I think, as in where we are. And the third thing is there are very few issues that are going to be tackled by one committee that don't have consequences and spill over to other committees. And I think in general, for me, I'm not an expert and I don't have the right answer, but what I do think is a good guiding principle is only one committee can carry a torch at one time. And sometimes, I've seen it where one committee bakes it and then hands it off to a different committee. But I would say I'm thinking about, your two committees, with all you have going on, you can't both be doing this. So there's a policy implication, there's a financial implication, but whatever you guys work out, the rest of the board will support and understand. But there's just too much to do for too much of the stuff. So anyway, but it's a great report. Thank you.
Mr. Avati, there are changes coming down at the state level concerning eligibility for free and reduced meals. Unfortunately, I don't think those changes happened quickly enough for this school year. We were already in the application processes for this year, but they will be implemented next school year. And what they basically will do is change the federal poverty levels so that more people will be eligible for free and reduced meals starting next school year.
And I think, Mr. Avati, you referenced, as I think other folks have referenced, next week we will be attending the New Jersey School Boards Association conference. It's a 2-day conference, and there will be lots of workshops. I know Dr. Mahan referenced that earlier, the CNI. It is an opportunity for us to interact with folks at a higher level, and I think and a statewide level, and I think it's an opportunity to really speak out. We're a large district. I think we'll be recognized as a district that just passed the largest bond in the state of school district bond. So, I think we want to definitely leverage our visibility and in what way we can. And also, as you say, I like the idea of taking it to the next level in terms of asking our folks at policy level to help us. This is a heavy lift this year. And I think it's, to imagine that we've accumulated that amount of, lunch debt or had that happen in our district, probably very inadvertently. There's got to be some help to remedy that. So you make a really important point, and thank you. And I'm about the policy stuff too. So other comments, questions? Okay. So I'm going to read out. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following. Business and facilities 14.1, the report out. 14.2, approval of minutes for September 6th. 14.3, approval of minutes for September 20th. 14.4, financial reports. 14.5, resolutions. 14.6, approval of budget calendar for the 2023-2024 school year. 14.7, resolution authorizing acceptance of the building capacity for career pathways in comprehensive schools cohort 2. 14.8, approving a services agreement between the board and ESS Northeast LLC for the provision of long-term substitute replacement teacher certified, which we definitely need. 14.9, resolution for the award of change orders. 14.10, resolution for the award of transportation. And 14.11, acceptance of donations. So can I have a second on that? Mr. Mayor and Mrs. Sugars. Are there any questions? Thank you. Skip that part. Okay, Mrs. Sugars.
Hey, board members, the online voting is open. You may cast your votes. Mrs. Sugars, I need to abstain from 14.3. I was absent for the exec session. And I'm yes to all the rest. Great. Other than the two exceptions noted, we have a unanimous yes vote.
Great. Mrs. Elmore Stratton, can you share information from October HR committee and move the HR agenda, please?
Sure. I always have the shortest report because there's not a lot I can share. But we definitely spent some time discussing the cadence of our meetings moving forward, and laid out what topics we want to be discussing during that time. And one of the major things that came up is recruitment, which I think we've heard as a theme between all the committees, because as we do this work, we obviously are going to need folks to do the work. So recruitment is going to be one of our standing agenda items moving forward. And if you take a look at the district goals, there is a space there where we've also decided to dedicate some time to look at our EEOC stats as they stand and what areas we need to focus in or lock in on that will help us to drill down a nice recruitment plan that we hope to share with the rest of the board sometime soon. And Mrs. Adrian is working to plug in some new things for this year to go back and try some stuff like some major recruitment events. There is a team that'll be working on putting that together, and they'll be looking for us in the committee to offer possible suggestions on places that can be recruiting. So we'll again be talking about that as a standing item, and hopefully we'll be able to hear back on what the results are of that event. So I guess community-wide or for us board-wide, just ask that once we have those things and it's out there happening, that we fully support and push to get as many folks as possible to those events so that we can hire and get some very great staff working in our buildings moving forward to add to our already amazing staff. And we also took some time to just make sure that we plan out some of the future things in terms of the initiatives that the other committees are working on. So if you guys are going to be talking about redistricting, if you're going to be talking about preschool and all that kind of stuff, that is going to affect us HR wise. So we'll be keeping an eye on what's happening in all of those other committees as well. And like I said, we took some time to talk about the cadence of our meetings, and I believe if it's okay with you, Mr. Avadia, we're still allowed to offer any board member that would want to come. So as long as we don't reach our maximum of us at that committee meeting. So if anyone would like to join for one of those, you're able to do so. I think that's all I can actually share, but Ms. Adrian, am I missing anything? Okay. Any committee members? Am I missing anything? There's only two more of us here. No.
Sorry, no, I'm nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay. Did you have something?
Sure. And for those that do want to join, your next committee meeting is?
Well, it should be on Halloween, but I think Mrs. Adrian was being nice because I'm the only person in the committee with littles that might be trick-or-treating during that day. So we will let you know if we all agree to Halloween or if we move to November 7th.
Okay. At 4:30.
Yes.
For sure. Okay.
Yes. Any other questions? No? Great. So the superintendent recommends, and I move the following. 15.2, termination of employment certificated. 15.3, termination of employment non-certificated. 15.4, appointments certificated. 15.5, appointments non-certificated. 15.6, leaves of absence certificated. 15.7, leaves of absence non-certificated. 15.8, assignment and salary change certificated, and 15.9, a salary change non-certificated. Do I have a second? Dr. Rude, and any questions? Nope. Mrs. Sugars?
Hey, board members, I've opened up the online voting. You may cast your votes.
Sugars, I'm yes to all, please.
And we have a unanimous yes vote.
Thank you. Mrs. Fleischer, would you move or would you report and then move P&L, please?
Great, thank you. We had a P&L committee meeting on October 3rd at 6:30, and we had a really great committee meeting because we had the anti-bullying specialists. We had one from each level do a report out, and they were great. It was Gina DeMonte, who's the SAC at Rosa, Jen DeStefano, who's the SAC at East, and Sarah Egan, who is the guidance counselor at Bret Hart. And they attended the meeting to discuss their roles and experiences with HIB reporting. And recently, the addition of the principal's assessment has been proven to help eliminate a lot of the reports when they don't actually live up to HIB standards. It's helping. I think it sounds like with the SACs and the guidance counselor that there's a level of involvement with the principal to be able to look into some of these HIB interactions, possible interactions, and there's another level before it has to get to HIB. And the conflicts are addressed in the cases whether or not they do qualify for HIB. It's just another level of interaction in the schools. We talked about the new HIB legislation, and in subsequent meetings in November, we're going to be talking about the Strauss-Esme new guidelines that have been provided. The other thing we spoke about is what happened tonight with Mr. Saporito reporting to the board on his safety, and I'm forgetting the acronym that he had because it says violence and vandalism, but I know it's not called that. So the report that he had tonight, which we're very grateful for him. There was a code of conduct graphic sample shared. We're working on the code of conduct to make it more consistent for all the schools, and there'd be a better communication with the parents and actually for the teachers. So there's more consistency across the schools about what some of the typical infringements are that cause code of conduct issues. And these graphics that Ms. Wethington is putting through are wonderful because she's gotten input from different principals and different places, like different other districts, about how to make it more easily seen for the teachers as well as the parents, and to make it see from A to like Z what can happen, what a certain action can cause a code of conduct infraction, and then what the I guess the punishment would be. It's going to be an easier way for us to show what the code of conduct actually is in our district, and that is sort of in a work in progress that we thank Mrs. Wethington for really working on that. And there were no new Strauss-Esme policy revisions. And I also did want to also point out to thank Miss Mallory because she was very much helpful while Miss Wethington was out. So the teamwork of the two of you, I appreciate. Thank you very much. And then we got into our first readings and second reading policies. So the first reading were two policies. It was P 2415.04, Title I district-wide parent and family engagement that had come from CNI. The second one, which we've spoken about a lot tonight, is P 5511, which is the dress and grooming, the new dress and grooming that I appreciate Liz talking and Aiden through his writing, that we've had a lot of student input already and a lot of enthusiasm about where this is going. So this will be on the first reading tonight. We'll bring it back to committee, and then it will be on the second reading for the next meeting. So I'm appreciative of all the input and the continued input, like what Dr. Malash had said, even going forward and how we're going to actually be able to implement all this, but it's nice to have such positivity already about that. The second readings tonight for the policies are P 5460.1, which is graduation ceremonies. The difference in this was just, it stated that if there was any well, that the schools are alternating each year, and this year East is going in the morning and West will go in the afternoon. And then going forward, if principals need to have any changes, they just need to give an adequate time and it have to be okayed by the superintendent, or now Dr. Malash. So that is what that policy has to do with. And then P5517, the school district issued student ID. And that actually had to do with on the back of the student's ID, it will have suicide prevention and information and crisis information that is now going to be printed. And Liz was able to say at the last meeting that already her new student ID already has that, because our vendor who does the IDs had already taken it on themselves to let us know that they were going to be proactive and do that anyway. So even though it's our policy, it's already being done, which is the policy hasn't been passed, but it's already being done, which is a wonderful thing because that is very helpful. And then the next one is hold on one second. P2416.01, postnatal accommodations for students. That again came from CNI. P2417, student intervention and referral service, again from the CNI committee. Then the next part of the agenda is the abolishment of policies. And there were two that got abolished only because they were replaced with an additional policy. We can't abolish a policy unless it's replaced by one. So the policy number that was replaced is PNR 2432, school-sponsored publications. It was replaced by policy 5722. And the second one was P1648.14, safety plan for healthcare settings in the school buildings, COVID-19. And that was replaced by policy 164815. And then the next thing that we spoke about was future topics. And the two topics, one is about suicide. It's R5350, which is student suicide prevention. It's formerly known as S12, and this regulation is going to be revised and updated. And an update is going to be provided by Mrs. Wethington, who sits on the mental health task force, just like how Mrs. Stern had said she sits on it also. And Mrs. Wethington's, one of the staff members that will be reporting back to our committee about what the revised update is going to look like. And then the second thing is we are going to be talking about on 11/20, that will be on 11/1, and on 11/29, K-5 redistricting presentation will take place. So that are the main things that we're talking there. The last thing we need to speak about tonight is that in the state of New Jersey, we have to have a self-assessment for HIB. So our school self-assessment summaries are actually in the agenda tonight, and it shows the number of HIBs for the year 2021 and 21-22 for all the different schools. It's got the total number of HIBs, and this has to be reported to the state. So that will be actually approved tonight, and then Mrs. Wethington will send it up to the state. Mrs. Wethington, is there anything else I missed or need more explanation?
Just for the HIB self-assessment, we do this yearly. New board members may not recall, but every school in the district is required to conduct a self-assessment. They grade themselves on how well they're implementing the law. They're not assessing the quality of investigations. They're not assessing number of investigations. They're assessing, here are the requirements. Did we implement the requirements? So they give themselves a rating from 0 to 4 in 26 different indicators. So most of our schools, I think all of our schools, have at least a 52. Most of the scores hover in the 60s. A 52 is sufficient. We're not fighting to have a 75. It's not necessary. We just want every school in the district to meet the standard, and they do meet the standard. Some scores fluctuate. There's no reason for alarm. It just means that in one year you may have been able to have a law enforcement, for example, present on the committee, and a different year you may not have been able to have them there consistently. So you can't give yourself a point for it if it didn't happen consistently throughout the school year.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Wellington. Are there any questions from our committee members or anyone on the board? Mrs. Stern?
So this is a little bit I just want to understand the difference, and I don't know that this is something that specifically was discussed during the meeting, but policy 2417, student intervention or referral services. It brings in the language of the multi-tiered support system model, which is new language for us. And I just wondered just what the general overview of it changes, because it's changing in our policy, but how is that actually changing in practice at the school level? Because the original language was well, I guess we called it INRS, which is still in there, but there's also the response to intervention, I think we used to use. So this multi-tiered support was raised at the, I think, as a Every Student Succeeds Act meeting that I was attending, and we haven't really heard much about it. So I'm just curious, like big picture, what the difference is, why it's being included in our policy.
That policy actually started off in CNI, it didn't start off in P&L. So I know that Mrs. Roy is not here, so I don't know if Mrs. Winters has any idea. So I don't know if Mrs. Wethington has anything, or Dr. Mahan.
I couldn't get the microphone to work. So we're currently continuing to use intervention and referral services. The state is moving to a multi-tiered system of support. Structurally, it's not hugely different from what we're doing now. We are having conversations about training that we'll have to provide to our building-based teams. We have a building-based team in every school in the district. You know, everyone's in a different place. Some are more robust than others. We know that we need to do some additional training and support for the teams. This is a great opportunity for us with the change in the regs to have to do that and switch to the multi-tiered system of support language. It's not hugely different though from what we're currently doing.
Okay, so that's helpful. So it sounds like probably once more of that is in place, we'll get more of an update on what that might mean, what some of the differences are, even though they're not huge.
Yes, and Department of Ed typically provides trainings to building teams that we can then turnkey. You just have to make sure that you get in on those trainings pretty quickly because they fill up. So we're keeping our eye on when they're going to be out, because we will send 1 or 2 teams to the training.
Thank you, Mrs. Wethington, and thank you, Mrs. Stern. Any other questions from anyone at the table? No? All right, then let me just pull this down. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following. 16.1, the committee meeting report out from October 3rd. 16.2, the first reading of policies. P241504, Title I, District-wide Parent and Family Engagement, and P5511, Dress and Grooming. 16.3, the second reading of policies. P241601, Postnatal Accommodations for Students. P2417, Student Intervention and Referral Services. P5460.1, Graduation Ceremonies. P5517, School District Student Issued IDs. Then 16.4, the abolishment of policies, PNR 2432, school-sponsored publications, P1648.14, safety plan for healthcare settings in school buildings, COVID-19. And then 16.5, the approval of Cherry Hill Public School HIB self-assessment and statement of assurances. Do I have a second, first of all? Mr. Abadia, any questions? Right, seeing none, Mrs. Sugars, would you open up the voting, please?
Okay, board members, online voting is open.
Yes to all my sugars.
Getting closer.
And we have a unanimous yes vote.
Thank you. Mrs. Tong, can you lead the discussion this evening on the role of the Strategic Planning Committee moving forward?
Oh God. All right. So with the strategic planning that planning that we're doing as committee whole today, I don't really have a lot to say, but I think I'd like to hear quite from different people. What should we be doing a lot with the strategic planning? So I think if we can give all those inputs, we can write something up for the next meeting. Any ideas? Raise your hand. Any questions? Any suggestions? Nobody? Oh, boy. All right, Miss Marianne. Miss, go ahead. All right, go ahead.
So my understanding of the strategic planning committee is that it's largely, and then we've been doing it as committee of the whole largely because it's been all about the bond, and that's something that the board has wanted to kind of speak on all together and have everybody's comments on a regular basis. So, with that being passed, that leaves a massive void for what do we do? And as you were just pointing out, that there's a huge amount of stuff between BNF and P&L. And it may be that some of the kind of discussing, what projects are being looked at and what projects are being, are on the table at different moments in time. It might be that strategic planning would be a good place to kind of, discuss, what is being done, and, whether we're, not necessarily making decisions, because that's going to come at the level of finance and architects and builders, but it may be that, in terms of providing accurate information to the rest of the board and accurate information to the community about those projects, that may be a place that strategic planning could fill in a little bit and help out BNF and everything. That's just, kind of my take on it.
Thank you for that, Ms. Aru. All right, Mr. Ben Navalia.
Yeah, so I go to two places, and one of them is what Dr. Root's talking about. It's these big issues. So one of the things I'm just casually noticing tonight is that there's a lot of interest and space for ideation on the big picture. And it's tough when you smush all of that into an hour-long committee. We try to get to public comment, we get a presentation. Are there big things and things that would be big? Would be, and I'm just, no particular, judgment one way or another. We're not ready for that, but things like, let's say, someone who could get a year or two of college in while a high school student, right? That's a big, we could put it into CNI, but it's competing with so many things in CNI. Could we look at something like that, that sort of dual degree or something of that nature, or something big like preschool expansion, where you're talking about facilities and funding, and you're talking about, we need to check with state experts. On its own, it's complicated. On its own, we have to partner with our administration and subject matter experts. Big things, do we take that to be the most strategic? But then the question is, does strategic planning have its own issue profile? Or after you bake it to an extent, you choose another committee and say, all right, this has been baked by the board, enough that we offboard it somewhere else. Now, we did that with, with redistricting, right? Redistricting started off in strategic planning. The bond was too big and complicated for us to hold two issues. And so I asked at the time, the P&L chair to really take that forward. But now we have this whole. So the question is, are there things that exist within strategic planning that stay there, or is it a baking, largely a partnership with our administration place to do some of this big things type stuff? But the second one that comes to me all the time in various forums is, there's stuff the community wants to talk about. There's no great way for them to interface with us on an ideation standpoint. So take an issue like, what's a good one? Take an issue like, now I'm drawing a blank, but let's say, so is there a mechanism to say strategic planning says, all right, we're going to own the town halls of the year. And instead of being thematic the way they've been up to now, we have some open forums. And so it's an issue of, all right, what do you want to talk about? Now, I would say, I know there's a little like, oh my gosh, but we've done that. When it came to the bond, the process, I can't tell you how much this board and administration did in public with no rules. except talk about this basic idea. But that went 100 different ways, all of it positive. We built this thing and we got the buy-in as part of it. So there's a piece of me that says, what about that? What about owning that public piece? And if we do that, then there are other good ideas like, what Jennifer Lewis Hall called her coffee clutch, right? How do we get that into some informal, let's say, but something that's in a predictable schedule where people can engage regularly. And how do we, is that the group, for instance, that looks at the data of thought exchanges, right? We do that sort of casually now. Could this group in strategic planning bake some of these presentations of what they mean in the large scale? Now, this board has expressed interest in data and analyzing data and being part of data. Well, thought exchanges, is there a TV show? Is there a minute with Mrs. Winters? I don't know. Is there a monthly newsletter that says, looking for input on X, Y, and Z? These are some of the big things we did this month. And hey, here's a calendar of whatever. I don't know, but I think these two things are where I'd be most interested in seeing strategic planning go. But then again, that's a lot too. So, I don't know. I think we really need to wrestle with this a little bit. But the biggest thing is, I think, Mrs. Tong, you've decided now we're going to have these standalone meetings back in public, not in the whole. We can at least make that. So some of this is going to still bake, but I think definitely the interest tonight was to get some input.
That's correct. Marian, you want to add something?
I would say that's where my mind, strategic planning to me is about a strategic vision. It's about a long range, where are we moving? What are our guiding posts and what's part of that? And I absolutely think that preschool expansion is one of those things. Adding full day kindergarten was one of those things. Right. And I do think that, there's so much overlap with committees and sometimes it gets a little murky, which I think you pointed out with BNF and P&L. I favor the idea of having more of a kind of a thought development, vision development. And by the way, we're going to have to update our goals, our vision, maybe the goals, are kind of worked through that group. I don't know, but I think we always must be moving forward and we need to do it in a thoughtful, big picture way. And to me, that's the place for it. To have those kind of larger, because people have a lot of thoughts and ideas about that stuff. So that's what I think the value of it. One thing we added this year, we haven't talked at all about was sustainability plan. And Dr. Reed, I'm looking at you because that was something that you really contributed. To me, making our district, there are things that there are initiatives we've taken, which are kind of shorter term goals, and there are also longer term ideas. And I think we want to have a clarity of that. And there are constantly, as Mr. Avadi, you were talking about, there's constantly topics that just cycle, but they don't necessarily end up gaining traction. They're more things that we just talk about and we're frustrated about and the community talks about and they're frustrated about, but they don't gain traction. And I think you need a place to think bigger and think longer term and think, how do you start structuring that and then perhaps offload it to committees, like other committees. But I think without that, I do think we need that higher level thinking place to park those things and curate those ideas and develop them. So
I just would want us to be careful that we're not making a meeting about the meeting. Because that's just more, we're giving ourselves one more meeting to go to talk about the stuff that we're going to talk about the other meeting. I don't want that. That's a waste of time, I feel like. So if it's going to be stuff, I wouldn't want it to be stuff that you're talking about that we're already building on or working on in some of the other subcommittees. If we feel like this needs to be very strategic and planning, then this should be y'all talking about. To me, I feel like it should be those folks talking about things that are 3 years out or 5 years out, and not anything that is happening in the next year or this current year, because otherwise I think it's just repetitive. But That's just my personal opinion. I just don't like it to be, I want us to just be productive or not just have because like you said, we can ideate on things forever. And I don't want that committee to turn into the space where we just ideate on everything forever. Not that I'm going to be on it, so it doesn't matter to me, but I'm just sparing whoever has to be on there, like make it meaningful or otherwise don't meet, because it's not a point to it. And my thoughts would be, again, looking at bigger picture stuff. So we got the bond, we're moving forward. Can we talk about the things that are going to happen when all this construction is done? Because maybe that's what strategic planning should be talking about, and not any of the things that's happening in 23 or 24. But what's happening once they have a new auditorium, they have the new HVAC, they have the blah, blah, blah. Talk about all that stuff. Again, not that I'll be on that committee, but just my thoughts.
Good point. Thank you, Ms. Corinne. That's a good point. Anybody else have more? Go ahead, Ms. Gina.
Thank you so much. I just heard Ms. Stratton sign herself up for strategic planning. So I just, no, but I mean, one thing I've been thinking about, and even since before I was on the board and, is the intersectionality between different issues. And this was something that just came up earlier. When you're talking about preschool expansion, you're also talking about HR, right? Because you're going to need to hire all those preschool teachers and we have a teacher shortage. You're talking about BNF because you have to find a place to put them. You're talking about CNI because are we keeping the current curriculum that we use, which is creative curriculum at Malberg, or are we going to something else new and different? So I think strategic planning could be a place to sort of talk about issues that have intersectionality. You're talking about transportation too, right? You're transporting preschoolers and maybe school start times too, because how are you going to manage that if you have preschoolers and elementary schoolers? And that's a piece I feel like before I was on the board as an outsider looking in, I sometimes felt the board was missing. Like there were all these big ticket items that you guys were looking at or incubating, but they were each in their own bubble. And it wasn't clear to me, how we were going to look at the interaction between all of those things. I think the danger here, and that's something that Ms. Stratton kind of pointed out, is that if we do have sort of an open forum, everybody come like pitch us your idea, you may end up having 100 great ideas, and then how do you curate those? Because I think sometimes if we take on too much all at once, then nothing is going to get done. So I think also if we open it up, there also needs to be a sense of priority setting that happens with that. Because I mean, we have a great, huge invested community with so many good ideas that people want, and people have their favorites, right? Things that they've wanted for years that they want to see happen. And I just want to make sure that we don't overwhelm ourselves with information and then end up in paralysis, where then we don't know where to move forward. So those are kind of my thoughts. I would definitely want it to be something that's curated so that it moves things forward rather than just 15 pitches of new things that we have to work on and then nothing ends up actually moving quickly enough.
Definitely a good point too as well. So go ahead, Mr.
So I'll comment again, if somebody's currently technically sitting on the strategic planning board, even though we've been committee of the whole. I love all the different ideas. I think Gina just signed herself up for strategic planning as well.
Absolutely, I'm on it.
Take my spot. Data, yes. People, no. Humans, no. I think there's tons of opportunities for community feedback that filters in pretty well, but I like the idea better of us focusing on big picture issues that are down the road. I think that was a really great comment. Absolutely, sustainability, like I would love to talk with administration about their ideas. I would love to I think that's something in general. I would love a better space for more of a just cross fostering of ideas between the board and administration and understanding where they want to go and how do we guide that and how does that guide us. So I think those are all kind of great ideas for how to move forward. And I definitely agree with talking about having a meeting about the meeting. Like maybe that's our first strategic planning meeting, is kind of figuring out what our purview is.
No, our input is great. I think then we have an idea what we're running into.
To add to what Dr. Root is saying, so like, are you, because you said something that sparked my interest. Are you saying like we need to hear, like if Dr. Mahan said, and I probably might have said the wrong doctor just then, because I don't know who does SAC anymore, and I'm sorry, but if Dr. Mahan or some administrator that's in charge of it said, hey, in 5 years, we need to be re-examining what we do with SAC. And so that needs to be something strategic planning is talking about now, so that she's not focusing on that at this minute, but she knows that's something that's going to be a challenge or something big. That would be what I just heard you say, because then I'm excited about that. If we're going to ask the admin team or ask Dr. Milosh to talk to his admin team about what might be their like things that they want to dream about at night for the next 5 years or 5 years out from now, then I would say that strategic plan should be doing something like that. But if that's not what you just said, tell me.
All right, I'll comment. No, I absolutely. I mean, I know that Dr. Milosh is our sole employee as the board. But sometimes it's rather than just like being presented at, it'd be lovely to have a conversation with the whole amazing team that Dr. Milosh has put together. And, rather like a space where, a little bit less formal, where, Dr. Milosh isn't just reading out what the points that he has to make, but rather we can kind of, we can go a little astray. We can wax philosophical about what the next big thing is, where, we can hear more opinions from our experts. Like, that's what I want to hear, is opinions from our experts, not necessarily like, this was done ABC, but this is what I would love to see. And this is some ideas I have. And I went to this conference and there were some brilliant ideas. That's the kind of like, that to me, it sounds like what, strategic planning could be. So absolutely, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like the fact that we're like thinking that, okay, this is if we're going to keep it as strategic planning, that's actually strategic planning. Then if we're asking them to vision board now, and then let's work on it in here before it gets to here and we ideate in all the different committees, then I like that as a plan.
So perhaps it's almost, Mrs. Tong, I'm sorry. So it's almost, it's an incubator, as you use that word. It's like an idea incubator, perhaps, that I like the idea of having the ideas curate there and develop and curate, and kind of then send out to the other committees and more working committees. I mean, is that? Yeah, and I just want to validate that for me, like preschool expansion was like that would have been a good example, or kindergarten, but I fully agree. We should not be like moving backwards to put ideas that are already kind of in process back in. That's not the point. So.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Ovadia.
Yeah, I think I agree with what everyone's saying. I mean, you can hold the town halls and stuff like that elsewhere. It doesn't have to be here. But I think the thing of it is, the one thing about committees is there has to be a certain equivalence to the committees. In other words, it's not that the biggest things necessarily would go into strategic planning. It's more like the earlier stage that has the longer trajectory. Like, for instance, some of the big stuff, look, in the next year, it's going to come through all of the other committees. Strategic planning, though, is the stuff that doesn't fit. I mean, but I think the other piece that I hear people saying is, no, I mean, the idea isn't to do 10 things. The idea is to look at the 5-year trajectory, ask our experts, vision board, get a couple pieces, and then pick a couple that we can really own and move forward. This is a committee, if it's going to be issue based on that scale, you're looking at 2 issues a year. I mean, you're not looking at, and frankly, I think that's where the other committees need to go. What's our guiding principle, right? C&I. well, I shouldn't pick on CNI with that. But anyway, but CNI, academic achievement. That's our guiding principle. Now, here's 3 things we're getting done this year. The other stuff, we'll figure out a way to do that. But what are we like? What's the top line? And then whatever is on the top line that doesn't fit, now you're baking it here and see how you onboard in the next 3 to 5. I buy all that. So I think, Mrs. Tong, I think for us, I think you got to go back to the strategic. Actually, I am on strategic planning for now. We'll see how it goes. But I think it has to come back to committee and then just kind of like, but I think the board's been good today to give you some input. Did you get what you needed?
I guess so. We will move back to the committees of when November what? November 7th, November 1st, November 8th? November? It's a Monday or Tuesday?
November 1st at 4:30, I think.
Tuesday is election day.
No, the following one is
Our meetings.
Wait. I'm lost. I'm looking.
strategic planning as a public meeting will be 4:30 on November 1st.
Oh,
The
okay,
following week
okay.
is full board with election day as well.
Okay, so November 1st is the Tuesday. Thank you very much. So put it in your calendar or whoever's on the team. We're gonna have a meeting at 4:30 on November the 1st. All right, yeah, hopefully it'll be short, but if not, we'll stay for at least an hour then. Thank you for all the great input.
Yeah, we'll take the full hour, Mrs. Tom, but bring some coffee. All right, so wonderful. Well, thank you. That was nice. Now, is there anyone who would like to bring new business this evening? No? Yeah, there's a lot of new stuff we could talk about. Okay, anyone who wants to bring old business? No. All right. Second public comment. Second public comment is much like the first, nonetheless. Well, at this point, basically, the difference is you don't need to identify the agenda item, but we still do want your name and municipality first, and you still do get 3 minutes to speak. Respect is foundational in how we treat you, each other, and how we support our administration and staff in their essential work. We will, by convention, begin in the room. And we will immediately go online to Janet Hung.
Good evening. My name is Janet Hung, and I am the chair of the Zone PTA. On behalf of the Zone PTA and the 18 school-based PTA executive boards, we would like to thank Mr. Avadia, Ms. Stern, and the members of the Board of Education, Dr. Malash, Mrs. Sugars, and the district administration, Dr. Birdie and Chassa, Mr. Redford and the CHEA, and the families and community members of Cherry Hill for your support in the recent bond referendum. We thank the Board of Education and district leadership for including the PTAs in our families in the process of building the bond over the last year. The outreach to the community through presentations regarding the building needs of our schools, town halls, PTA meetings was unprecedented and appreciated. You gave us the time to process and share the needs of our schools with the community, engage us in dialogue, addressed our concerns, and met our needs. As taxpayers, we appreciate the efforts made on our behalf to secure a commitment from the state and federal governments of up to $113 million in debt service aid. We would also like to take a moment to thank the teachers and staff for your commitment to our children while working in buildings that have shown their age. Your focus on our children and not your surroundings is a testament to your dedication as teachers, and we are so thankful you will have the buildings that support your needs in the coming years. As Zone PTA Executive Board stated in our statement on July 26, 2022, which was echoed by Dr. Birdie in his statement on September 20th, 2022, board meeting, it is now time to invest in our future. Our town deserves it, our stakeholders deserve it, our staff deserves it, our children deserve it. We are proud to be part of a community that has chosen to invest in our public schools and the heart soul of our town. It is a very exciting time for our families as we look forward to the construction and renovations that will be taking place over the next several years. So our buildings will be a reflection of this excellent education our children receive in Cherry Hill. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we've got Lori Neary.
Thank you, Laurie Neary, Cherry Hill. First, I want to say I am also very pleased that the bond passed. Much needed, long overdue. So thank you to all those involved with ensuring that that made it across the finish line. Next, I wanted to talk about two things. One was the incident at a residence on Chapel Avenue last week that took place. I was really concerned that nothing went out to the community, no letter, no information. And it was a serious incident that took place 4 doors down from our elementary school and not far from High School West. We sent out no short of communication to our families for the bond texts to go vote, but there wasn't even a communication that this situation was assessed and it was deemed safe for the students to go about their day and the high school to be released. There was no shelter in place. There was nothing communicated, nothing said. Inappropriate language was used at Beck, and the principal, rightly so, sent out a communication to their community. I'm not sure what happened, but was very disappointed that that wasn't addressed. Second, regarding the HIB self-assessment, I have a lot of concern, especially at the middle level with those numbers. It being a self-assessment alone gives me pause at a process that is self-implemented, self-investigated with self-oversight and self-attestation. It's a process and a policy, even at the state level, that incentivizes districts to often not find HIBs, which artificially suppresses true instances of bullying. I am very concerned at those numbers at the middle level. And I think that needs to be reviewed. And I think the district should have an outside audit done of the HIBs themselves, and the HIB process. Thank you.
Thank you. If anyone, oh, okay, yeah, Dr. Yaris.
Yoni are still Cherry Hill, haven't moved in the last hour. So I'm gonna be a little random on this one, hoping my notes make sense. In terms of discussion about the school meal debt, I was hinted at of reaching out to our legislators. I want to expand that on September 30th. I want to say there was the White House Conference on Food Insecurity. Speaker Coughlin was there. I really recommend reaching out to him. This is a major passion point for him. And any communication should be CC'd to him. He is really, this seems to be one of the biggest things he wants to do as a partner. And education, if you can find a partner, you should run to it. Speaking of partners, if I can make an introduction for the district, one of my professors in my doctoral program is a subject matter expert in educational sustainability and is eager to help. And she just became director of sustainability for Fairleigh Dickinson and working to institute sustainable practices across higher education. And higher education and K-12 education do have a lot of similarities. So I'm happy to do that. In terms of strategic planning, I think we've been doing that for 23 years, heavily focused on the bond. Really glad that we can now move on to that conversation. I jokingly texted someone after the bond. I'm like, so what's next? I think that really should be the conversation. I got reintroduced to the district when we had the 2020 conversation with Dr. Malash, all those many years ago at this point, it feels like. And I think that's where we're heading to next is we have this opportunity where our facilities are going to be getting upgraded and getting to where they should have been all those years ago. Now let's talk about what goes on inside of them instead of worrying about the ceiling tile falling on a student. So I think that really needs to happen. And I think it needs to be strategic. I really liked where Ms. Elmer Stratton, I think Dr. Rood talked about it. We're not talking about the here and now. We're talking about 3, 5 years, 10 years. We can't just be looking and running in the past. Education is about being forthright, looking ahead and planning. So many reports that come out there that we're looking at a 4 or 10 year, when we're looking at what the federal government's looking at. They look at projections. And if we can figure out what that sweet spot is about how far out we can plan, we know what our projections are. We looked at it, we did the enrollment numbers. We have those ideas going forward. And I think that'd be a really great spot to sit back. It also might be time to bring back an ad hoc committee on this and really bring the community together to see what's now. We've been heavily involved with the bond for really 4 years in this community, deeply going on it. I don't think people have had a chance to think about what is education all about? What is our vision for education in Cherry Hill? And what are our vision for what we want to see done? I think the schools have started a great job, especially with CTE being one of those next big steps, but I think there's more that can be done. And I think perhaps it's time for a board retreat to bring this together. I think we've all been so in this bond world that we need to take a step back in a more casual setting where it's not agenda based and just sit down and have a conversation, perhaps in January as the new board gets seated, because we're heading into a transition process. Elections are transitions. And perhaps that should be one of the first conversations come January after the reorg meeting is to really talk about, all right, what's next? What are we talking about? Thank you again for all your service. And a big thank you to Mr. Vadia, Ms. Stern for all of the many hours you guys put forward. I saw you at many of them and it was taxing and I sincerely appreciate all the time you did. Thanks.
Thank you. On the line, we have Gary Steinmetz. Floor is yours.
Hello, yes, I'm Gary Steinmetz. I'm a resident of Cherry Hill. This is the first time I viewed a school board meeting, and it has been very interesting. My daughter is in 8th grade attending a non-public school, and I want to discuss shadow days where a prospective student can attend a school for a day with a current student. My daughter wants to attend a shadow day at Cherry Hill High School East. I contacted the Cherry Hill High School East administration about arranging a shadow day, but was told they aren't offered and to go to the open house instead, which doesn't really provide the actual in-environment experience that a shadow day would provide. I was told that shadow days used to be offered at Cherry Hill High School East, but they were discontinued for a few reasons, one of them being that the pandemic came along a few years ago. But at least in terms of the pandemic, Governor Murphy ended mask mandates in March, and President Biden declared the pandemic over last month. In my daughter's review of high school, she's been able to attend shadow days at non-public schools, but it's the fact that it's not offered at a public school, which is a public institution, challenges my intuition. I think that public institutions should be accessible to the public. Please consider reinstating the shadow day option or provide a comprehensive reason why they shouldn't be permitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Floor is yours.
Alana Yaris, Cherry Hill. I live in the Surrey Place West neighborhood, which is located immediately behind Crucy Middle School. And my family likes to walk a lot, especially on Jewish holidays and Shabbat through Crucy because there's a shortcut there. However, there's no sidewalk around the whole side of the building. There are signs that say do not enter and no parking along the fence, but apparently those don't apply to the people that drive in the Crucy parking lot. And there have been numerous occasions where I've had to yell at my children to get on the grass as fast as possible so that the car speeding through the parking lot in the wrong direction doesn't hit them accidentally. So when we're looking at our buildings and redoing them through the bond, if we could make better do not enter signs that maybe have red for stopping, and the no parking signs on the gates could maybe be larger. And on all the signs on the field say that the Board of Education is in charge of allowing field rental. If we could just remind parents of the sports parents that for Crucy Middle School, that there's no parking on the fence there. There's parking in the parking lot. There's a do not enter sign, but maybe also reiterate this to the sports teams and I think CHSC Soccer Club rents it, if they could be reminded as well. Saturday mornings, there's a lot of soccer that happens and a lot of people who park on the grass area where it says no parking and drive through the do not enter. I would just feel safer, especially since there's no sidewalk around the whole building. Thank you.
Thank you. Carolina Bevid on the line.
Good evening, Carolina Bevid, Cherry Hill. First, I just want to give a PSA to any board members who may be Phillies fans. The Phillies are winning 2-0. But secondarily, I have a comment about Scholastic Book Fair. This isn't immediately in the purview of the board, but I just want to make the board aware and anyone else listening that this year, unlike other years, children are being charged tax on the books they're buying, which is upsetting for a few reasons. One, some of these kids use their own money to buy the books. Two, it's a lot harder for a child to add up costs of books in their head and determine if they have enough money or not for the books they want to buy, while also calculating tax, which is part of the book fair. Kind of kids, you know, they have their money, they look at the books, obviously they're volunteers there, but it just complicates things. So if anyone has an opportunity to speak to any legislators about this issue, I recommend that you do so, because I think probably books in general shouldn't be taxed, but especially books sold at a school book fair. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have Dr. Podowitz. Your floor is yours.
Well, my name is Jeff Podowitz. I live in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I commented on an article in NJ Spotlight dated August 3rd, 2012, entitled Ruiz Puts Special Education at the Top of Her Next Agenda. I commented, no special education task force is necessary. Just follow the laws and statutes as written. Provide FAPE, free and appropriate education, and level the playing pad for all with disabilities. Enforce IDEA, Section 504 and ADA. Cherry Hill students are an example of a group that has not been treated in an equitable fashion by the state due to the legislators' initial capping of SFRA calculations. Just read what I wrote. In an article entitled Legal Victory for Families of Disabled Students, dated May 22nd, 2007, in the New York Times, reporting a Supreme Court case, Winkleman v. Parma School District, it was noted that the National School Board Association and other school management groups entered the case on the side of the school district. In other words, they were neither allies of these students or advocates. They were strong adversaries. An Equity Council Corner, published in December 17, 2019 by our New Jersey School Board Associations, it was stated in education, equity involves providing the appropriate sports structure based on identified needs. The School Board Association says equity goes beyond what is required by law and extends to what is dictated by fairness. Those in charge of the schools are defining what fairness is. If you have a 504 in IEP and you disagree with what a school district defines as fair, you can always go to court or file a complaint. One way to try to increase fairness and equality is by writing goals in an IEP or a 504 that support equality. All right. Note, remember that policy 511? Note, if an individual feels their health or safety is threatened by what you wear and the administration agrees, you will be punished as if you directly threatened that individual, someone. Read the words. Thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? All right, we'll close public comment 2. Turn to Dr. Melange for anything you care to address.
Thank you, Mr. Ovadia. Just a few things. I will certainly follow up with PTA about the tax and the book fair, just to find out how pervasive that is and what that looks like and what options exist for that. Certainly folks reaching out to legislators about that is always beneficial. We have certainly always found too that legislators are going to listen a lot more to a group of parents than they are to a group of professional educators on comments that affect or on situations that affect schools. Mr. Steinmetz, if you send us an email with contact information, you can email me or email Dr. Morton. Somebody will follow up with you directly just for additional conversation about that. The situation that there was the situation that occurred last week in a home on Chapel Avenue. So there are a couple of things. There's a couple of things that I can say. There's not a whole lot that I can say because it's not a situation that involved the school district. There was a situation that took place in a home that involved the police. There's been some information that has come out. There was additional information that was released by the Attorney General's office today, which I encourage people to look for and to find. The school district and the school were notified by the police department that there was police activity. There was never a threat or a danger to the community at large. The police felt that they were in control of the situation. We followed their guidelines. We defer to the law enforcement experts from the Cherry Hill Police Department, from Camden County, from the prosecutor's office, and from the Attorney General's office. When it comes to issues of law enforcement, we have to rely on them. In terms of sharing information about things that are occurring, what involves law enforcement and occurs off of school campus and doesn't involve us, there's very little that we can say. The principal, Dr. Hogan of Kilmer Elementary School, put out a statement in his weekly memo last Friday to the Kilmer community, which were most impacted by what took place. But again, additional questions, I encourage folks to reach out to either Cherry Hill Police Department, Prosecutor's Office, or the Attorney General's Office. We just don't have additional information through that. In terms of the HIB grades, the self-assessments, we follow the state guidelines that are required. We have to do the self-assessment. That's the process that is set up through the Department of Ed. We go through that process each year. It's reviewed internally. It also becomes part of our QSAC, the Quality Single Accountability Continuum, that's used to evaluate the school district by the Department of Education. But we go through that process each year. That's why we ask the board to adopt it each year, and that's why it's published as well. I think that's it, Mr. Avadia.
All right. Okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We do have to go. It's been a long time since we did this. We do have to go to a second exec session. So I make a motion to convene a second executive session to discuss personnel matters. Second? All right, this is Elmore Stratton. All in favor? Since you know the Phillies are winning. All right. All right, Mr. Mayor, we won't do this very often. All right, we are in we're in closed session. All right, thank you all for coming out tonight.